pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulation.
To explore a pivotal moment in mobility where innovation meets sustainability and the future of transportation is reimagined. As India commits to reducing carbon emissions by 50% and achieving 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030, we are entering an era of unprecedented change. Our theme, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era, reflects the urgent need for action and collaboration in our automotive landscape. Let's get ready to shift gears and accelerate into the future. Welcome to Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era, where pioneers and thought leaders unite to redefine the automobile sector. Let's begin.
Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders
here in
will
Noida, in our
unite.
studios. By the way, this is Asia's largest news center, and I haven't had the chance to give you the full tour, but I will. And I have Ankit Sharma, who's the co-founder, CEO of Vidyuta Materials Private Limited, joining us live on the roundtable today. I have Ayush Lohia, who's the CEO of Lohia Auto Industries. Why? Okay. Which is my camera again? Okay. Okay. So welcome to our first panel discussion on the second edition of the Republic Digital Roundtable We are going to focus on electric vehicles in today's conversation once again. I'm excited to host a group of distinguished guests who are at the forefront of electric mobility revolution, and in our studios, physically here in Noida, at Asia's largest news center, I have Ankit Sharma, who's the co-founder, CEO of Vidyuta Materials Private Limited. I have Ayush Lohia, who's the CEO of Lohia Auto Industries. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And I have Mayank Jain, who's the CEO of New Auto Car Deco Group. Thank you, Mayank, for being with us. And Akshay Shekhar, who's the co-founder, CEO of Kazam. Thank you for joining us. Gentlemen, welcome to the Republic Digital Roundtable. Very, very exciting round one that we had in Bengaluru, and I'd like to broad base it today in the conversation. It's a free-flowing conversation, so feel free to come in. I think we have about 30 to 40 minutes. We'll try and, punch in as much as we can. Let me start with you, Mayank. There's a report. I think it's a Goldman Sachs report released in May this year that spoke about the sales momentum for EVs slowing globally. And you've seen the views of some of the world leaders on EVs, not really very hopeful of EVs. And then you have hybrids, right? You have hybrids and plug-in hybrids, and hybrids are very popular here in India, proving more competitive than first thought. What do you think is happening? I mean, is there a resistance to EVs? In India, what is the pattern that you are seeing? Because you have a lot of data at hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity here. Look, when we look at a report like the one that you're referring to, those are global trends. India, I think, is in a very different place from where a lot of the Western developed markets are. A lot of those trends in those reports often actually refer to the car industry. And we must forget, India is, a far larger bike market than it is a four-wheeler market. We sell roughly about 18 to 20 million bikes a year, as opposed to about 4 million cars a year. And in the two-wheeler, in the bike market, adoption has already zoomed up to about 6%.
Yes.
And it's 6% of the overall two-wheelers. Now, the bulk of that adoption actually has been in the scooter market, not yet in the motorcycle market. It will soon happen in the motorcycle market as well.
Which audio?
To explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era.
Indian markets very different from the Western developed markets. Western developed markets, the EV adoption is mostly in the car segment because that's what those industries are largely. In India, the two-wheeler industry is actually far larger than the car industry. Two-wheeler is roughly about 18 to 20 million units a year. Cars is about 4 million odd units a year. And in the two-wheeler industry, EV adoptions already reached about 6% of the overall industry, and that's just in the last three and a half odd years. And actually, if you think about it, if you further cut, slice and dice that number is only within scooters. And scooters only, about 25% of the total market. Motorcycles is actually about 75% of the industry. And motorcycle EV adoption is yet to take off because you have just very few players right now in the mass segment in motorcycles out with any kind of a product, right? And so when motorcycle EVs also start to come around, and we've recently seen some players have made some announcements, and some of those products, when they start coming to market and other manufacturers follow, I have no doubt that you'll see a far higher than the current 6% two-wheeler adoption. Now, when you look at the four-wheeler industry, the car industry in India, there we lag behind where the rest of the world is. Like you've got markets like Norway, where already EV cars are actually outnumbering non-EV cars or petrol or diesel cars. And in that particular segment, India is roughly at about 2% penetration at the moment. But when you look at the data that we have access to, that we are privy to as India's largest research platform, consumer platform, we get roughly about 60 million people visiting our various sites across cars, bikes, trucks, tires. We see that the traffic in EV cars is already about 10%.
Right.
And so I think that's a great lead indicator of where the EV industry in India is heading as well. So I have no doubts that adoption in the EV segment will continue to rise in India. In fact, when you look at a segment like three-wheelers, and we were discussing this earlier today, in three-wheelers, where India is one of the leading players in three-wheeler industry globally, our EV adoption rates, penetration rates are already now upwards of 50%. So I think India will continue to buck the trend as it has in a lot of other markets, because we are starting a little bit behind, a little bit later than them. And I think I see a lot of headroom for growth in EVs in India.
And while we were having a conversation before the conversation off record, and some of the points that I picked up, I mean, you guys know more about who's coming in and the exciting launches that are lined up. One of the aspects that I picked up, and you can speak about it, Ayush. A lot of the EV launches are yet to come. I mean, I'm telling you anecdotal, right? So I travel, when I'm in Noida, I drive about 150 kilometers daily, right? 150 kilometers. I mean, you drop your child to school, come back, and because anything in the expressway, right? I mean, it makes it look easy, but it's these are long distances. And from what I hear, right, there are and the SUVs have changed the market. And if there are more exciting launches yet to come, do you see the landscape of EVs changing in India, or the best yet to come?
Definitely, there are big changes yet to happen. For instance, the largest car player, Maruti, is yet to launch their cars. We are expecting them somewhere into 2026. So even in two-wheeler segment, if you talk about, as mentioned by Mayank, it's still, motorcycle two-wheeler industry yet to start the revolution, which is supposed to happen in two-wheeler segment, electric vehicle segment. So yet a lot of changes has to happen. All those segments which we expect will grow with the change of infrastructure when it comes to charging infrastructure, battery swapping when it comes to two-wheeler, which is a very important aspect which will play. Then the long-term policy plan which government has to emphasize on. We always been referring to 2 years extension or 1 year extension rather than 5-year policy plan, which is they are very prominent in gasoline industry. So all those changes will definitely switch the market from typical gasoline industry to electric vehicle industry. Yes, we are talking about much more new policies, new framework, new way of targeting the consumer. What has been earlier go to the market or top above the line segment, we are here talking about interacting, showing the vehicle, making the customer feel what they can get when it comes to power, when it comes to the comfort what electric vehicle gives over gasoline vehicle, no noise, no pollution. So all those benefits we are yet to materialize to the consumer, and we are definitely going to see that happen very soon.
In the first edition, we had a few two-wheeler makers on the panel. We have, of course, I mean, all of you are linked to the EV industry in one way or the other, but they were excited and they saw a lot of hope. I mean, from what Mayank said, he spoke about the two-wheeler, three-wheeler market, right? That's the real boom of the EV industry that we're seeing in India. What is the potential? How far can we go, and what are the challenges that you see?
So I think roughly this year we may hit around 10 lakh vehicles to be sold here in India in the two-wheeler space. And right how Mayank said that almost 50% of three-wheelers are already electric. The largest player, Bajaj, actually launched three-wheelers some 7-8 months back, and they're already catching up. They're already number 2, and you will see them be very fast number 1 player. And what's actually happening is that the 2-3 wheelers are getting adopted in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Okay, the arbitrage that you have been able to create from petrol to now to EV with no CNG in between, right? Especially in 2-wheelers, we didn't see that at all. So the cost have gone down almost 1/10, 90%, right, in the fueling cost for all these vehicles. So we have started seeing a lot of adoption in 2-3 wheelers in that segment, and in 3-wheelers, especially in the northeast markets, you'll see actually a lot of adoption happening because CNG was never even available in those segments at all. So that is something that is happening in this current market, and Kazam is very happy that we've been able to penetrate and allow adoption to happen in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where we're now present in more than 50 odd cities currently in the market. I also see another trend. I see a trend where charging is not just going to happen in the public spaces,
yes,
but it's also going to happen at homes. So it's very important to have charge points and safety of operations at your home, because electricity is distributed everywhere. It's right in the studio today, right? Yes. So fuel is available. All you need to do is a mechanism for you to ensure that you're able to fuel it at your home. So that's what is happening.
Okay, on the battery front, I mean, we were speaking about the challenges, and India hasn't even really opened up its industry, right? In terms of battery, I mean, where you I mean, that's you were giving a number compared to China, where we stand.
Today, if we look at the rest of the world, I would say 90% of the batteries are pretty much, when I say batteries, I'm referring to cells. Cells are coming from China, and the rest of the 10% is predominated by South Korea, by Japan, and maybe some in the US and Europe. But India still has a way to go in that regard.
Right. And what is the potential there? I mean, do you see where is China? Where is China leading? And from a policy perspective, right? What can India do to get into this seriously?
So I'd like to further expand on what my colleagues said. Number one, the reason why EV adoption has suddenly grown all over the world, and especially in India, is that the cost of the battery has tremendously reduced over the last decade. In 2014, we were looking at a cost of roughly $300 per unit of kilowatt hour. Now that cost has suddenly changed to $78 to $80 per kilowatt hour. That's a 75% reduction in a matter of 10 years. And that is with the rest of the world not coming with their new technologies. And for example, India has its own challenges, and that is why players like us are required, where we make these battery materials like cathode active materials that make up 40 to 45% of a lithium ion cell. And we understand the challenges. For example, 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers is an India centric problem to deal with. So materials that go into the cells, and the cells itself are to be designed for India's mission. And that is where we come in. We are developing cathode active materials which go into cells, and we are not only doing that, we are expanding on that and also providing recycling capabilities to our group companies and refining. So we provide a complete closed loop ecosystem in Africa, which reduces carbon emissions by 40 to 45%. And we basically are providing the EV maker a domestic supply chain. Now, in terms of policies, I think it's really important that India collaborates with other countries, especially where mines are currently present, whether that be Australia, whether that be Chile, whether that be countries in Africa. And I do see that India is actively looking at partnerships with these kind of countries, where we basically mine over there and then further refine that material here in India itself and capture the complete value here in India.
So the refining business is yet to be tapped here in India.
To be tapped into, but I do see people, including us, our group companies, that are getting into refining, and I think that, and it is a similar story to China, although we are probably 20, 25 years late, which can be said for many other industries as well. But I think now the world is looking at India as a China plus one, and I think it's time for us to stand up and actually do it.
Mayank, when you look at EV makers, I mean, China sort of owns the EV market in many ways, right? In India, what are automakers doing to make EVs exciting? I'm from a layman's perspective. If I were to look at the SUV segment or the hatchback segment, which is most popular, I would look at the price point, and on the price point, it's not really attractive. I mean, it is expensive, right? I look at hybrids as more attractive today and more practical, right? how do you change the mindset? And the reason I'm asking you this question is because the government has set a target of 30% of EV penetration by 2030. Is it possible?
I think it is possible.
Only on Republic Digital.
And I think having multiple
India-
powertrains, fuel trains, I think is a good news. So I don't think we should look at it as a binary of either EV or non-EV. I think having multiple batteries and even for that matter multiple technology types within that, I think is healthy for the market. But of course, with the car market, with EVs still only about 2%. Actually, let me share a statistic with you, which will be interesting here as well. If you actually look at the gasoline, and by gasoline I mean the petrol and the diesel car segment. 2 years back, petrol and diesel was roughly about 84-85%. Today it's down to actually 75-76%. And that's because EVs have gone up to about 2%, hybrids have grown, CNG has grown. And that trend will continue. Now, where will the impetus come for EVs? I think the impetus will come with more products coming out. Because in the car market, you still have largely one mass player who's got multiple products, but most of those products are in hatches today. And I think once the mass players and premium players...
And when are these products coming out?
Yeah, I think very soon. Can't wait for them
You
myself.
know that. I mean, you guys know, you guys get the scoop and you test drive them and you have a heads up before anyone else.
So as Ayush was mentioning, Maruti is certainly lining up their launches in EVs. We know Hyundai is looking at bringing out their EVs as well, and with them, Kia will also end up launching.
Is there a timeline to?
Yeah, I think between 25 and 26 in the coming year. I think the Auto Expo this January, the Bharat Mobility Auto Expo as it will now be, I think will be an exciting space. I think we will see a lot of new announcements, a lot of unveilings happening at that event. I certainly am hoping to, both as a consumer and as an industry participant to see lots of excitement there. And so, and Tata and Mahindra themselves, Mahindra has recently had this tie-up with the VW group as well. So I think on the back of these 4 or 5 companies that together between them have roughly about 80-85% of the Indian car market, when they start bringing out EVs across their model lineup, we will certainly have a lot more adoption happening. So I think, car market, EV market will grow. And will it hit that 30% in years to come? I think time will tell. But we'll certainly head in that direction.
Yeah, you want to add something?
So 30% 2030 is a big target to achieve for, especially because it's a 360 solution and we have to incorporate every part of the ecosystem. Whether you talk about charging infrastructure, we talk about supply chain from back end, especially batteries, because battery accounts for more than 50 to 60% of the vehicle cost. And if we want to achieve that target, definitely battery is going to play a very important role. And the supply chain to support battery manufacturing is again very crucial. The good thing is, at least when we are talking about battery cell manufacturing, side by side government is talking about mines, supply chain for the components like anode, cathode, and all the chemicals which has to go in. So that thing is good to hear that it is starting simultaneously. But yes, there is a lot of to achieve to go to 30% of this. The most important sweet spot will be 3-wheelers in that segment, because that has already reached a milestone of crossing more than 50% in that segment, and 2-wheeler is going to catch up once we have motorcycle in place. Scooters are pushed up by the frontline players, and we definitely see that once we have that traction coming in, the Euro 6 will kick, Bharat Stage 6 will kick in very soon. The cost of the ownership of a gasoline vehicle will go further increase, and these all multiple factors will account for a very switch.
Abhi to ulta hai. Right now it's the opposite. I mean, it's more expensive to own an EV.
Definitely, because this change has happened because the subsidy amount has reduced drastically on 2-wheelers.
So let me ask you one thing. Okay, I understand that you may want to be a little diplomatic while speaking at a forum like this, but I think sometimes you should speak your mind. Let me ask you a blunt question, okay? And then, Akshay, you can take it from there. Can the government do more?
They can. Definitely, yes, why not? Because if we have to adapt, And if you have to, lead the world when it comes to electric vehicle, as mentioned, two-wheeler and three-wheeler is a very important space. No other country has so much two-wheelers and three-wheelers on road what India has. So if we want to lead by saying that we are the, say 20%, 30% of the total automotive segment in electric vehicle has been diverted or shifted from new vehicle sales from, gasoline vehicle to electric vehicle, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and that is the most important and the easiest sector to transform. Because the cost of ownership of the vehicle, we are not talking about a 5 lakh or 6 lakh rupees product price point. We are talking about a entry level lakh rupees product price point, and then 2 to 3 lakhs for a three-wheeler segment. So that point is very easy and sweet to enter. While if you see from the perspective of cars, the entry level IC vehicle from which used to be 3 lakh rupees has not jumped it to 6 lakh rupees on road price. And definitely the SUV is coming in 10 lakhs and 12 lakhs rupees as a price point. We already see electric vehicle in that price point, which is available from Tata. Any good traction from Maruti here will definitely help in switching from gasoline vehicle to gasoline oblique CNG to electric vehicle on that part.
But if I may, just on the...
So go ahead.
Just on this point on can the government do more? Look, when the subsidies were reduced or partially withdrawn, there was, and we saw this, the adoption in the penetration in the two-wheeler industry was going like that, and then it suddenly started to flatline a little bit. And that is to be expected, because when you suddenly withdraw some sort of an incentive which was in place for consumers where it was more affordable for them, and the moment you withdraw that customer incentive, you suddenly saw a bit of flatlining for the two-wheeler industry. Now, but did it just flatline after that, or did it go down? No, it's again started increasing. And so in the long run, it'll certainly keep growing because the battery prices will keep coming down. The product offers a total cost of ownership advantage. It is cheaper to run over its lifetime. And certainly as battery prices keep coming down, affordability will also keep improving. And you have interesting models like battery as a service, which will increase further affordability. So I think in the long run, I'm not sure whether withdrawing the subsidy will really end up having any kind of an impact. In the long run, I don't think it will matter. I think we will get to where we need to. But I think I completely support this point, which is a very, very important point, that look, because India is a global leader, we have the largest number of two-wheelers, three-wheeler units being sold here. We have local players who do very well. We have players who also export to other countries who do very well as well. Bajaj is one of the largest exporters of two-wheelers in the world. If we have a much more conducive, a much more supportive framework, and I think it will
long term is very important here.
Absolutely. It will not only go a long way to serve the Indian consumer's interest, I think why can't India end up dominating the way China today dominates in the four-wheeler space, in the four-wheeler EV space? Why can't India end up being a dominant force globally in the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler space? Two-wheelers are a huge product, a huge market in Southeast Asia where we also are present. Two-wheelers are also a huge market potential in Africa as well. Now these are countries that will over the long run keep evolving, keep growing, and India can really be in that position of...
Just to add on that, two-wheeler and three-wheeler, India is the largest exporters of two-wheelers and three-wheelers when you talk about IC vehicles, and see the potential. If that shift from gasoline vehicles to electric vehicle, India can definitely take the lead in two-wheelers and three-wheelers instead of apart from car segment, which already China is the leader.
So I think you can already see that happening, right? Because as Mayank said that as the price point keeps going down, the capex price of actually owning a 2-3-wheeler, you will see more adoption. But how can that happen, right? It can only happen when technology is there around it. So there are obviously two parts to it. One is the financial model to ensure that it becomes much cheaper. So if you take the battery out, typically today that is 40% of the vehicle cost, right? And you create models of financing it, either as battery as a service or pay per kilometer that has already started kicking in. I think that is one way to kind of solve it. The second way is to actually get the total cost of ownership itself lower. And you can do that in the future by buying electricity at a much cheaper price for yourself, right? Large scale industries have already been doing this in the open market.
But
so when you have
electricity prices are going up. I mean, you're from Bangalore, right?
I'm from Bangalore.
Electricity prices have gone up. They just keep going up.
They keep going up, but you need to also understand that there is an other alternate market available in the country. There is IEX, which allows you to do spot buying, which allows you to do buying for 3 days in the future as well. And that is the future state of electricity as well in India. You can also have opportunities to just choose green energy to charge your vehicle at a certain amount of time, right? And with that whole push of solar also coming in by the government in this whole policy, we've started seeing that. The other set of technologies that the government actually finally started doing, and I think is giving push for the 2-3-wheeler segment, is the overall fast charging piece, right? We never even spoke about fast charging in 2-3-wheelers 2-3 years back, right? But today
when you say fast charging, how fast?
It can do like 15-20 minutes full charge, right? And you can now think of maybe doing Bangalore to Mysore at least, on a 2-wheeler finally,
awesome.
right? So that kind of an unlock really puts even consumers like you and me to think about 2-wheelers and owning them on a full scale basis, right? Let's not just think about SUVs alone that can unlock EVs in that sense. So these are some of the new technology changes that are happening. And not to mention that your EV today is more like your cell phone, right? It just went from, your feature phones or landlines, which did not give any data, to now having so much data coming in from EVs. So that's another unlock that is possible potentially.
On this question of battery swapping that we were discussing earlier, and then you can take it from him. I mean, what's your take on it? I mean,
I think India will have both these markets exist, especially on the commercial vehicle segment. I think battery swapping is a great way to solve for getting fueled up very quickly. But on the passenger side, I think you and me will never lift a 8 to 10 kg battery. Forget my sister or mother trying to lift that up, right? While swapping her vehicle. So I think the commercial vehicle will continue to do that. And if you look at India as a energy for oil, right? 70% of all the oil in for vehicles are consumed by commercial vehicles, right from the big trucks, buses to the small 3-wheelers that we use for delivery. So that is a very mass energy guzzler in that sense, and that can also potentially at the 3-wheeler and the 4-wheeler segment can be used on the battery swapping side. I'm not very sure how that will pan out for
for
trucks and all.
Swapping is not
the key. Even and that's why you see the fast charging coming up for 2-3-wheelers as well. So you will have a mix in 2-3-wheelers, but not beyond that.
Right.
Is what I see.
Ankit, I mean, your views on battery swapping, 1, and 2. I wanted to ask you the question of supply chain challenges in India.
So first I'll talk about battery as a service. So battery as a service, so let's go into economics, because you were talking about rising electricity costs. So what is the cost, right? What is the cost of owning an EV? What are the operational costs? And Ayush can probably correct me in this, and maybe even Mayank, but as far as my knowledge goes, we're talking about a roughly 0.5 to 1 rupees per kilometer of running an electric vehicle, whether that be a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, and sometimes a little more in a 4-wheeler. And a normal ICE engine vehicle, we're talking roughly 8 rupees per kilometer. So there's a delta, there's an arbitrage in that. And that is why electric vehicles has become what they are right now, right? That is the delta that customers see. Now, when you bring in the battery as a swap model, you're talking about a rental model, and you're talking about an upfront cost that the company is taking. That delta might not be there at that time. You might be looking at a cost of roughly 6 or 6.5 rupees per kilometer, and then that delta doesn't look too attractive when you talk.
Right.
Well, suddenly you're not. Suddenly you customers might look at why not just buy an ICE at that time. So certainly I believe that the way forward is working on our technology. Working on securing our domestic supply chain, working on the battery, because like everyone has pointed out here, the battery is the most expensive component and the most technologically challenging component of an electric vehicle. If we are able to bring that down, and we've already seen companies like Tata and companies like Mahindra launch cars at around 10 to 11 lakh rupees, which is a fair cost, I think, of the vehicles. And then at that, if you're getting that arbitrage in your OPEX, then, I mean, suddenly it looks very attractive, right? As far as domestic supply chain, like I said, collaborating with other nations, but then also we have seen that the government has, and very rightly so, has launched PLI schemes for cell manufacturing companies. I think similar PLIs should be launched for the downstream materials as well, so that business is promoted in that regard as well.
Right.
So I think if certain schemes like that are promoted by the government, and then if we can tie up with, because when we talk about making in India, we're not only talking about making in India for India, we're talking about making in India for the world, right? So like, for example, the United States has an IRA implemented where it promotes business not only from facilities in the US, but also from selected countries that are part of that IRA scheme.
Yes.
So if India can take part in that IRA, and maybe the US can benefit from India and India can benefit from the US, if certain things like that can happen, then certainly that promotes business in India.
Yeah. Mayank, your group has a lot of data at hand, right? When people, they come to your platform, the platforms, and look for vehicles. Give us a sense of the trend that you see or have seen in the last, let's say, 1, 2, 3 years in the EV segment, 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers. How has that changed? Has there been growth that we would like to see?
Yeah. Certainly, the last 2 or 3 years for the EV industry in India has been tremendously exciting. Let's not forget, EVs have been around for a long time. Ayush, as he was mentioning, Loya Auto started, I think, sometime in 2008. But it's really in the last 3 years where I think the ecosystem really started to come together. And I think the sort of breakthrough that we started to see happen in 3-wheelers and in 2-wheelers, we've seen, Indian consumers actually, there's a very strong latent demand for these products. So earlier today, I'd mentioned that in the car industry, where EV penetration is just 2%, our traffic tells us that the searches for EVs is roughly about 10%. And so that gives you a good indication of where the industry is heading next.
So where do you think that 8% refuses to buy?
I think more products need to come. I think distribution needs to grow a little bit as well. Similarly, if you look at, for instance, on 2-wheelers, where the penetration today is 6%, the actual traffic interest that we see, interest in EVs, that's roughly about 12-13%. So that's 2 times. Now, one key factor, I think, in the 2-wheeler market is certainly distribution, because at least a quarter of that interest that's coming is actually in those tier 3, tier 4 towns or below, where right now, 2-wheeler players haven't been able to reach, with respect to their stores, their outlets. To give you an example, Ola today is available in roughly, I think, about 600 outlets. But if you'd compare that number with, Hero or TVS or Bajaj, they'd be available in thousands of outlets. So, many thousands. And so that's why it's important that as that distribution grows, we will certainly start to see much higher levels of penetration there. And of course, over time, pricing will keep coming down. This festive, lots of OEMs have come out with very aggressive pricing. I think one important point here, though, is are we likely to see a fragmentation or a consolidation happen in the industry? And what would the government rather have? Would it rather have that 4 or 5 players end up dominating an industry, as has been the case in 2-wheelers in India, as has been the case in 4-wheelers, in cars in India, where, right? What is healthy for the industry, for Indian consumers, for the long run? If you withdraw subsidies too soon, if you don't support as much, you will have cost of compliance going up. You will have those companies that have much better economies of scale, much higher levels of ability to invest in their business, actually in the long run being able to consolidate their position. So I think those are some interesting trends that we continue to see play out. One final word here with respect to especially new age OEMs. I think there's an opportunity here for new age OEMs to figure how they can be more agile in their competitiveness vis-a-vis a lot of the legacy players who are there. Because over time, legacy players, courtesy their huge distribution strength, their very large R&D setup, their brand strength, will naturally be competitive in the long run. How do new age OEMs compete with that? And I think many of us have come from entrepreneurial or startup sort of industry and backgrounds. I think if you look at how the auto industry business model has shaped up in India, it's always been a very wholesale-driven business model. And I think there is an opportunity here for new age OEMs to actually not go down that route, but instead look at their business model as a retail business model and really embrace, getting to know their customer and not just relying on the dealer that I've, shipped my products to the dealer. I don't even know who my customers are. And that's where Car Dekho Group is working today with all the OEMs, providing some very rich data, helping them to do very seamless online to offline journeys that allow them to be far more competitive and take on some of the industry giants as well.
You know, I just want to add a point here. When I met the Ultraviolette guys, Narayan, I was blown. One, I mean, blame me because we spend 99% of our time in the newsroom, right? I didn't know a brand like that existed. But when I got to know about what they do and their product, I was blown. And to figure out that, and he was telling me the story of how they're getting a lot of talent from outside.
Yeah.
People who worked in huge companies in Japan, etc., are coming to Bengaluru.
Yeah.
And being a part of that story, right? And you were speaking about the smaller OEMs. I wanted to say we don't have. I mean, with the kind of ecosystem that we have, for one, you're pushing smaller guys to make it big, and we have the talent. And you look at the kind of products that we are now offering to the world. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the Ultraviolette product that Narayan's brought out, kudos to him and his team. It's a fabulous product. And I think great example, because if you're from Bangalore, you would have visited his hangar.
Yeah.
He really has embraced this whole experience the product.
Yes.
And I'm sure that if more OEMs get closer to the customer, bring out great products, while at the same time taking care of a lot of the basic unit economics, which are going to be a critical factor for adoption here. There's no reason why smaller new age OEMs can't actually compete with the big guys here.
Absolutely, and he's up against Bajaj and all the guys. Yeah, what's your take on that, Ayush? Finally.
So when it comes to definitely when you talk about electric vehicle, technology is one thing which comes by default with electric vehicles. You have a lot of options when you talk about collecting data, collecting information, consumer behavior, consumer driving cycle. All those things comes by default when it comes to electric vehicle. Yeah. We should not forget India is a very price sensitive market.
Yes.
And when we talk about numbers, more than 95% of the numbers come from masses. We hardly talk about, even in cars, two-wheelers. Definitely three-wheelers don't have, premium segment. Yeah. So two-wheelers and cars, when we talk about, we see everything like hardly, 3% or 4% comes from the premium segment or a super premium segment. The rest of it comes from masses. Like when you talk about Splendor, on that matter, again, 45% of the market, in mass is coming from that segment, 100cc and below. Yes, the shift is happening. The shift is happening from below 100cc to 110cc, 120cc. But what is more important? The price point. Because customer today with good quality also requires a price point. So that is the most important key. Yes, technology will talk about it. You can create premiumness. You can create and go to the market with specific features, 0 to 100 in few seconds or something, which is definitely achievable in electric vehicle segment very easily as compared to gasoline segment. But what I feel overall, when we have to lead the country, you have to lead the world in a particular segment, you have to be sure that you are competitive in that segment. And that's what India can do when it comes to masses, because there are products which are sold in international market at a much higher prices, but same product or similar products are easily available in the Indian segment, much competitive on that point. I'll say competitive, not cheap. So the quality is the key, which you can't see in the China market. You will see here only competitive, good quality products which is there, and that's what benchmark India. When you go to Africa or in any segment like Philippines or Malaysia or Thailand, they have great value for Indian product. They don't want to compete it with China price point. They always say we want quality, and when quality comes into the system, they India is far better. And definitely hats off to the key players like Bajaj, Mahindra. What the kind of standards they have set is completely acceptable in international market, and that's what we see is the key here. And we need to keep that momentum going into electric vehicles. That is the key. We have seen the such shift happening. Like a lot of people bring from products from international market, dumping into India, but at the end of the day, people are switching from that kind of use and throw thought process in electric vehicle to a much more life bound here. So right now, what we offer, we talk about 5 years, 7 years, 10 years of life. We gave good performance and the longer life cycles when it comes to vehicle usage. We talk about in batteries, second life, first life, second life, third life. In vehicle, we are saying that you can run the vehicle for 8 years, 10 years of the vehicle. So yet the technology has to happen in battery, which is the key, because rest of the components is pretty much, we are talking about the same segment which we are across an IC vehicle also and electric vehicle also. Battery is going to be a key differentiator which is going to drive this segment in coming time.
Okay, I have a few takeaways, but I'll just get last couple of closing statements from Ankit and Akshay. Akshay, you first. Exciting times. I would slightly sort of disagree with what you said. Yes, you need to be competitive, you need the big guys, but I think today in India, the small guys are making the real dent. Would you agree?
See, you know what?
I mean, he's an example. I mean, Kazam is an example.
When I say small guys or big guys, it's not about the size.
No, I get it. It's the competitive, the quality, and
yes,
yeah,
so
of course.
Every company, if they want to stay in the market for a long run, they can't be just use and throw kind of scenario. They have to be competitive with the quality in place.
Yes.
The consistency has to come in the market.
But do you think the small guys need a push to gain that consistency? Is that the point you're trying to make?
No, what I am trying to say is on a point where we are comparing our product which is internationally which is available at a much higher or much competitive price as compared to what is available with China with a low cost, low use and throw kind of thing. The consistency of the price and the consistency of quality what I am referring to here.
Got it. So I missed that point.
But interestingly, that is available for small players like us, who are just beginning out, because the tables have turned. Okay, Niranjan, what has happened is because it is a technology first product now, the number of parts in your EV is so low as compared to an ICE vehicle.
Correct.
It's almost become 1/10 or even less than that, right? And most of that is electronics and software that's controlling most of it, right? There is obviously a lot of mechanical parts which the vehicle can fail, but the people who are focusing on value, I would like to say not competitiveness but the value of the final product that's coming out, that can actually make the difference for consumers to take. And the second piece is like someone like Kazam, right, who kind of came out in a very ancillary business to auto, which was the charging infrastructure altogether. We worked across the small players like Ultraviolette also to the big guys like Bajaj also in the market, and some way or the other they pushed us really hard to get to that quality level where they could meet it and bundle it along with their vehicle, right? So that is actually even pushing players like us to be giving that kind of quality along with every product that we're thinking of. And this sets benchmarks and finally gets into the policy making for the whole country. So if you are really focused on technology, because that is what you can bring onto the table with the large incumbents in place, because they are missing that piece at the beginning. So you bring in the technology, you bring in the software prowess and allow them to work and help you build quality alongside with them. And most of the vehicle OEMs are open to that and they help us do that. And today we are, I think, at the same par. Right? Most of them audit me and then I'm passing all their audits and getting into the last piece. So I think that is where I would say that the industry has kind of shaped players like us. There are a lot of opportunities as well, not just from a government perspective, because even when I apply for tenders, for example, for large scale tenders, there is actually a startup segment available where you can apply, where there are a lot of discounts given in terms of the qualifications, because we will never meet revenue targets, for example, right? So that's the kind of play that has happened, and hence we are all on the same leveling play field over here. I think the roundtable can also tell you that we are new age guys coming on to the incumbent.
Isn't that refreshing?
Exactly, it's not refreshing, just for the audience, for everyone else. For
everyone,
well, right?
I find it fascinating. I mean, from the even in the first edition, I mean, this was my biggest takeaway. And before I get to my takeaway, I want to go across to Ankit. Ankit, will I wouldn't call them smaller players, but will these smaller, newer players fuel the real story of EVs in India?
I think absolutely. I mean, because like he just said, I mean, everyone's on the same level field. No one really has found the equilibrium in India yet, right? Everyone's looking at China, and everyone's looking at maybe Korea, Japan. But I strongly believe that the key is technology, like everyone has said, and creating our own research and development teams and creating our own technology and not copying or not licensing technologies from China. I mean, we should take the best bits from everywhere, But at the end of the day, we should make our own product something that's suitable to Indian environment, something that's cost effective, and something that we know will work. For example, like I keep saying, the two-wheeler and three-wheeler market is an India-specific market, I think.
Yes.
And if we can create a technology that revolves around that and then expand that to our four-wheelers or heavy-duty vehicles,
Yeah.
then because this is so technology sensitive and because it's so because it has to deal with so much technology, then the bigger players obviously bigger players will have more resources when it comes to research and development. But I still think that it's a level playing field because the technology can come from anywhere.
Anywhere, absolutely. Some of my takeaways from this conversation. I mean, for me the perhaps biggest takeaway is that the two-tier, the three-tier, the four-tier markets are the most excited about EVs. I mean, who would have ever thought that they would be the most excited about EVs? And I'm personally looking forward to all these exciting launches because I think the more choices you have, the more competitive it's going to be and more affordable, of course, somewhere. Absolutely. And but the fact that we are now working on the battery and the sourcing segment, and I think that's something that we need to look forward to and work towards. Overall, exciting time to be discussing, EVs. Thank you for joining us, Ayush, Mayank, Ankit, and Akshay. Thank you for joining us here in our second roundtable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a cut?
India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations.
Pleased to welcome an exceptional group of industry experts who will share their insights on the evolving landscape of passenger and commercial vehicles. Yes, with me in the studio right now is Rajiv Rawat, an automotive veteran with extensive experience in sales and marketing across major brands. Ashok Vashisht, founder and CEO of Wise Travel India Limited. Anu Patil, co-founder and CEO of Intangles Lab Private Limited, and Akshay Shekhar, who continues with us in this discussion. He is the co-founder and CEO of Kazam. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today. And as we begin with this discussion, I'd like to start with the macro picture first when we're talking about passenger and commercial vehicles. Now, Rajiv, coming to you, you're an automotive veteran and you have experience with major brands like Tata Motors and Volkswagen. With the kind of trends that you're witnessing at this point, how would you describe the passenger vehicle market and the way the consumer preferences are shaping up?
Well, the top of the preferences among the buyers nowadays, which I can see, is definitely the safety, safety of the cabin. Then it's come to the comfort, which is the another aspect which the preference of the customer. And I would say that the features of the vehicle. These are the three factors which consumers are looking at this point of time. Definitely, the preference is for the space. I mean, overall cabin space. And the ground clearance, that is another factor. And you will see that most of the SUVs at this point of time, they are fulfilling these requirements, and that is the reason. That's why the most of the SUVs, this mid-size SUVs like Harrier, Creta, and the coupe newly launched by Stellantis, or maybe the coupe by Tata Motors, like Curve, they are fulfilling these all requirements of the customers. And at this point of time, what happened? The vehicle is not only used only for the short distance; it's being used by the families for longer distance, where safety is a major factor. That is one of the deciding factor which is in the consideration of the family once they are buying the vehicle. So that is where it all, and also I would say the manufacturer like Tata Motors, thanks to them that they have done this kind of campaign on safety rating and this kind of awareness they have created in the market. So all put together, and others also following. I mean, the OEMs are also following that kind of campaigns over a period of time. So safety is one of the major factor, I would say, which is setting the trend, which is one of the preferences which is coming all put together. Talking about, I will say, the comfort part.
Right.
Automatics are one of those which were earlier almost 3 to 5% of the industry. I mean, once it's talking about the total volume is happening. So this year, so far, almost 40% of the sales of overall vehicles which are getting sold in the country are automatic.
That was exactly what I was going to say, that safety, of course, is a huge aspect, but choices are certainly getting fancier. And with a growing demand in India, we, of course, see a very diverse want from the spectrum. But on that note, Ashok, I want to come to you because we understand that the auto sector had certainly taken a hit post-COVID. But talking about FY25, how do you see the growth panning out?
So I think let's start from COVID and pre-COVID. 2019 was, I think, one of the golden years for the entire auto industry. When you talk about, I think that's the year, that's a benchmark. And then you saw a complete sluggishness as far as the sales is concerned, 2020, 21, 22. And 22, then we saw a different kind of a phenomenon where there was a big challenge in terms of some chips which were not available. So in 23, 24, I think the entire industry, especially in the passenger vehicle, sold somewhere around 42.5 lakh vehicles. And in 25, the anticipated growth is around 5 to 6%, which is sluggish. Now, if we talk about 5%, that looks very small, but in absolute numbers, I think that will cross a couple of countries' GDP. So it is not a small number. Let's see how this is going to happen, because if the government really starts implementing scrappage policy in India, then in 25, at least 2.2 million vehicles will be out of road.
Okay.
So that is going to be a big boom for the auto industry.
All right.
And there'll be a different stance. So let's say from small car to mid-segment to the bigger cars, and the powertrain that is changing from diesel, petrol to possibly CNG or electric vehicles. So that is the trend that we'll be seeing.
All right, that's interesting. But I just want to refer to a Car Edge report, and Anup, I want to take that question to you. Now, according to this report, the commercial vehicle segment, as it has predicted, is likely to witness a degrowth of 3 to 6% in FY25. Do you agree with that? And if that is, how would you explain the decline in volume?
See, there are multiple factors that had actually contributed to these phenomena that you're talking about. One, the baseline itself was set higher, like what Ashok just talked about, right? So post-COVID, the demand had gone up, the pent-up demand was there. So it ended up setting up a high baseline for you.
Right.
So that was one factor. Second is with the regulatory norms becoming quite stricter in terms of emissions, the vehicles are becoming quite definitely costlier, right? So, and then there was a liquidity crunch in terms of financing options, the interest rates going up. So there are multiple factors that actually have contributed towards these numbers going down. But the way we see it is now that there was a sluggishness in terms of the investment in infrastructure projects, because this was an election year also. So now that the dust has settled on elections and things are moving up, we think that these numbers will again start going up as we move forward. Whether we are talking about in terms of specifically in the commercial vehicle segment, these numbers will definitely start seeing an upswing, and the demand will start coming up. And that is specifically in the later part of the year. Of course, now we are getting into the holiday season or the festival season, that also definitely sees a certain downward trend. But the fourth quarter will definitely see a positive trend in terms of the demand. So that's how we see this industry shaping up.
All right. So Akshay, do you agree with what Anup and Ashok are saying? And if you were to take reference of this report, do you think that there could be a possible turnaround when it comes to the volume in the first half of FY25?
See, obviously the festive season is around the corner, and we need to kind of see what really happens in this 2 months that we have, the Dussehra and Diwali season. I do agree with with Anup as well as Ashok in terms of the baseline itself was too high. But I would like to add a different flavor onto all of this, right? I come from the EV industry. I focus on that very much, and that's the place where we're actually seeing growth in terms of all of these segments, whether it was the commercial vehicle specifically, right? With the kind of incentives that have been given by the government, we're seeing great numbers on the buses side. We also started seeing a lot of experimentation on industries, especially the cement mining industries, which have shorter distances for trucking to happen, right? And we have started seeing that grow much faster. If you also look at the three-wheeler commercial market, almost 50% of today's new sale is on EV, and that has grown significantly if you look at the last 2 years. And I don't see that is the challenge that we are seeing, especially on an EV perspective. Obviously, there has been a slight sluggishness on the overall growth numbers, but I think we are moving in the right direction because we'll have less emission-free vehicles coming on road.
Yeah, I'm sure you want to make a point, yes.
Akshay, you might have some viewpoint, but as far as EV is concerned, why are we always so bullish only about EV? Why can't we talk about some other mode of fueling? I mean, why can't we talk about bio-CNG? Why can't we talk about hydrogen? Why are we only emphasizing on EVs? That's one of the questions that I have. when we talk about EVs, I think most of the time what I feel is that it is shoved down your throat.
Okay, so especially let's go to two, three tier cities, right? Do I have CNG available in that city? No, right? The arbitrage that I can create by moving from petrol to EV without CNG in between is significant, right? And the trends that I've been seeing, because I work with one of the largest vehicle OEMs across 3-wheelers and 2-wheelers markets, literally everyone over there, we have started seeing trends where there are vehicles sold much more in these markets as compared to tier 1 and tier 2 cities.
So if I may ask you one question.
That is the arbitrage that's actually happening, and that is why you see that happening. Second, one is the distribution problem with CNG actually in these markets. The second problem is when you're talking of biofuels like ethanol, etc. If it makes bio-CNG also. If you look at ethanol, let me first talk about ethanol. We in India, we grow ethanol by putting water, like spending water, which is also a scarce resource within the country. I come from Bangalore. We order tankers literally every day to just take bath and drink water. So that is where I don't want another precious resource to be used to create another form of fuel. I do agree that it will be much more cleaner to have this. And in the long run, if you're looking at electric vehicles, the net emission that I'm trying to save, with obviously the push with the solar coming in from the Prime Minister, where every house will also have EV, the overall mix kind of makes sense. At least not now, but if we don't start today and create that impetus, I don't think that we'll be in a state where we'll be able to meet this altogether. And it also finally helps fiscal deficit, right? Because oil in itself is what we import, and we don't want to get into that.
Right.
Akshay, I think let's understand one thing. I am not just against EVs. What I'm saying is, why can't we have a balance when it comes to powertrain? I'm saying today our focus is only on EVs. Why can't we have bio-CNG? Why can't we have E20 petrol? That will also, if you actually do maths of how EVs are more sustainable, or if we are able to balance EVs, ethanol, bio-CNG, hydrogen, because 70% of the consumption happens on the highways.
Correct.
Today also.
You're absolutely right.
How much is that EV going to save as far as the pollution is concerned? So that's my question.
Right. Let's allow Anoop also to make his point.
We sit on the data side, by the way. We are absolutely fuel agnostic, and we have seen all kind of fuel types. And because our solution is now available in 17 countries, we are seeing that the kind of advanced or developed countries, the way they are right now going about the whole sustainability, because when it comes to EV, it is all about sustainability and bringing down greenhouse gases and host of other narrative that comes along with it. But the point that I have is like what my dear friend Ashok said is that there has to be a concentrated effort in terms of ensuring that the right kind of fuel type is available for the right kind of application, rather than just focus on one set of fuel type, which is EV, which is not going to work out, because at the end of the day, you have to look at the infrastructural requirements that are there. Like Akshay said, that there is a challenge in terms of making CNG available. There is a challenge towards making the charging stations also available in the urban areas where your real estate is so costly. Okay, so there are going to be different set of challenges that are going to come up. The way we see it in terms of fuel efficiencies and the kind of emissions that each and every fuel type brings in, we feel that the reliability and the serviceability has to be taken into consideration, and then these decisions and policy framework should happen rather than just one area that should be pushed.
Right. So I want to take the next question to you, Rajiv, to understand how much of a tilt do you see in the passenger and commercial segments towards electric vehicles, and in terms of sales and marketing strategies, do you think they are evolving in that direction?
So rather I would say that EV are the trends which are supported by the government in a very big way. But once it comes to the sales and marketing strategy part, I can say that we are shifting more towards the digital awareness, digital engagement with the customer. Is more of I would say that educating the customer and creating the awareness between the customer that how and what way is going to benefit, having more tie-ups with the B2B companies, I mean where the zero emission or this kind of they are part of that kind of campaigns. So that is, I think, that is a shift which is happening at this point of time. And more of the partnership and collaboration is required with the companies. I mean, the big companies who are giving that kind of subscription and that kind of option to the customer. So overall is going to take care and shift happen in terms of there are a lot of, I would say that, there is in the market, most of the people will think so that initial investment is very high. So that kind of, that over period of time, how it's going to save the cost and is not something is affordable. It's something having the alternate options and also creating awareness and I mean to say infrastructure as well. I think this kind of marketing strategy or shift is happening, which will take some time, but over period of time, these all things, yes, as Ashok and Anup rightly said, over period of time, that will also be an option. So we cannot ignore EV. It will be time-taking thing, but it's going to be happening.
So there are certain hiccups and work is in progress in that direction.
Agreed.
Okay.
And OEMs, or if you look at the narrative from OEMs, is they know that there is a lot of anxiety in the consumer mindset in terms of range, in terms of performance, in terms of the reliability of these. So they're putting a lot of marketing effort to bring that or ease that out, right? But that has to be also complemented along with the infrastructure. Like there is
I just want to add, Anup, see, electricity is distributed here in this studio that we are talking to, right? So the distribution of electricity has happened. 80% of charging, because I also sit on a lot of data, I'm a tech first company, and 80% of all charging, if you look at global trends as well, where like players like countries like Norway, etc., where there is almost 70% of vehicles which are EV, people tend to charge 80 to 85% of the times at home. And there are three solutions for charging: at home, at your community, like your housing society or your workplace, and finally the public infrastructure. There's a lot of emphasis given in the media for public infrastructure because it has to happen at a collaborative basis. But there are vehicle OEMs who are giving you personal charge points where you can actually charge 80% of the times. Obviously, the application for you to maybe go from city to city kind of gets limited in that way. But you and me are traveling to office at most of the times.
Right.
I have never, I don't drive to another city doing 400 kilometers, right? So that is the reason why I just need infrastructure at home. And if you look at the 2, 3, and even 4-wheeler market, your house has roughly around 5 kilowatt of load available. And that is more than enough for you to charge, a 2-wheeler, which is a 2 kilowatt, 3-wheeler which is at 7 kilowatt, and finally a 4-wheeler which is at 30 kilowatt hour. So your infrastructure is there,
but fact is that we are not there yet.
We are not there yet, and the mix will continue. I'm not saying that tomorrow there's going to be EV. The mix will continue, and even in the future it will continue, right? It's not that it will not.
Having said that, while we are making our way in that direction, the sustainability aspect certainly remains big, and I'm going to come to that in greater detail. But before that, Anup, I also want to understand from you on the data analytics angle, in terms of how it helps us understand vehicle performance and consumer preferences both, given the kind of automation that has now kicked in across vehicles, and also how it is helping manufacturers refine their offerings.
Also, data is playing a role in big time. So if you look at the most popular term that is coming up is SDV, or software defined vehicles. There is a lot of content that is being added by the OEMs to get a real-time insight. Now, there are two aspects to it. If you look at it from the consumer standpoint, they have a lot better visibility on a component level as to how vehicles are performing, and in terms of what are the impeding issues that are there with the vehicle, which they should go about fixing it rather than they seeing a catastrophic failure. In case of EV, that is a big problem. Okay, so that's the kind of a visibility that now customers have started getting. But on the OEM side, there is a much bigger stake that they have in terms of the real world performance usage of these vehicles. They understand under what conditions and what ambient factors these vehicles are typically performing in a certain way, and they are able to improve the reliability as well as improve the component level warranty. They are able to bring it down. They are making even the tier 1 suppliers a major stakeholder using data and giving them a better insight as to how they can also improve, because it's not only about bringing down the warranty costs, it is all about improving the reliability and the discomfort that customer faces when the vehicle breaks down. So these are the aspects that this whole world is changing. Your turnaround time, your real estate or service station is limited. How do you have a more number of vehicles serviced in a shorter span of time using the real estate in a much effective way? So all these things is something that these software-defined vehicles are now enabling, and it opening a new window of opportunity for OEMs, customers, service stations, and a host of other things. We believe that if this data is utilized in a right way, then even government can benefit in terms of bringing the infrastructure, understanding which all areas there are enough congestion points, data points, and how they have to regulate the traffic, and all those kind of things can be regulated in a much better way.
Right.
So there is a whole lot of things that are yet unexplored. And
Right, but as manufacturers, how are we innovating on that front, especially if the eventual goal, as you very strongly emphasize, is the EV way? Then how are we working towards it?
See, in the EV era, it is technology first. So SDV starting with ICE vehicles, but the number of components that are there in your electric vehicle has become 1/10 of what it was in your ICE vehicle. So it has become an electronic first vehicle, right? And it's sending a lot of data. It is like your cell phones which were at, or landlines which became cell phone today, and it is sending so much data where you can improvise and do a lot more things, right, with this vehicle. So that is what is happening in the EV era. And obviously there are digital twins which are happening with the help of players like Anup, but there is also the connectivity that is being built from the infrastructure layer point of view. So energy in the future cannot be in a place where it gets deficit. So you will be able to charge during non-peak hours, during peak hours, and there will be people who will be able to orchestrate it and also help the government to make that decision in terms of when to produce, not to produce. India's grid was made very recently as compared to any of the Western countries. So we actually have a national grid, and then we have regional grids kind of there. So it kind of gives you that access to buy electricity also at any given point of time from anywhere. So those are the kind of technologies that vehicle OEMs are already talking of. And the final piece that I want to tell you is, most of the distribution that has happened in the ICE era was a wholesaler distribution market, right? I have sold it to a wholesaler or a dealer, and as a vehicle OEM, I don't even know who's my end consumer, right? I would only the dealer would service it, and he would be the one who would be contacting you for the service, etc. But with the new era of software first vehicles kind of coming in play, vehicle OEMs can actually think of it like a retail business where they can talk to you at the end place. And players like Kazam kind of come in play because we are anyways coming to you as a charging player who you have to actually use from an application and open the app every day. So you're already connecting on a day-to-day basis, right? You're interacting with that vehicle OEM in some way or the other. So I think the future is that the vehicle OEM is coming closer and closer to you as a consumer, and they need that whole technology and data layer to kind of ensure that that happens. And new age companies are hence able to sell a lot more because they're already reaching you as the end consumer instead of going through a retail route.
Okay, so I want to get Ashok's point of view on this, and you make your point after that.
So first and foremost,
because Ashok, I also want to say that both manufacturers and the government are eventually working towards sustainable solutions. So as manufacturers primarily, how do you bridge this gap?
So firstly, thanks to Anup and his company, because the way the data is going to come to us, my life will become quite simpler and easy. So thank you. Coming to what Akshay is mentioning, I completely agree. The kind of information now which is available with the manufacturer is amazing. But also at the same time, I think it is very important from business standpoint or from the personal standpoint. You gave the example of, I think, which country you were talking about? Norway. So let's compare apple to apple. Norway is not the right example for us because if we take that example, then only 50 lakh people or maybe 1 crore people will fall in that category. Is that the market that we are going to serve? One. Secondly, I'm myself using EV at this point of time. But is that my first car? No. Because the anxiety levels are much higher whenever you have a situation. Especially when it was raining, I did not take out even a single car. I don't know how it is going to behave. When you're going for intercity, can you imagine on a highway somebody driving with the lights off in the evening with the anxiety that at what point possibly the charge will go off? And lastly, we are talking about telematics, we are talking about a lot of other factors, but trust me, sometimes driving habits are very different. You are ascertaining a certain range based on a certain condition. The odometer shows that the vehicle will go for 20 kilometers. but actually, when it starts tripping down, in 5 kilometers, the charge will be over. So all these anxiety, I think it is over a period of time that it has to be taken care of. Second, my only request is, yes, sustainability is very important, but from the business standpoint and also from the balancing standpoint. It cannot be that we are only talking about electric vehicles. We should be talking about bio-CNG, ethanol, or other hydrogen, etc., which is available as of now.
Right.
See, well, both of them are right, and very interesting example he gave, and that is very, very important. And I'll top it up to the Akshay's point also, is that in the world of EV, while you have 1/10 of the part, it is not the singular factor that impacts the performance of the vehicle. Unlike ICE, ambient condition has a significant play in terms of the performance of the vehicle. We all know the optimal temperature under which EVs must operate for you to get the best performance. So your sunrise and sunset patterns have significant impact. Your use of AC is significant factor. Your number of passengers that are sitting inside the vehicle has a significant impact. Your rolling resistance of the tire has a significant impact. In the world of ICE, when did you really go about thinking what is the rolling resistance of your tire? You didn't even knew that was a factor. But in the world of EV, that has a significant impact, because you operating a vehicle within 20 to 30 degrees Celsius versus in a sub-zero degree condition, which frankly is very rare in India, but you're operating in a Rajasthan where 50 plus degrees a common term or common phenomena, you will see that the performance degrades quite fast. Your battery temperature overrun is again a significant factor that we are talking about. So there are ways in which you can get this insight. But to answer your original question, in terms of how much software is playing a role in this, these are the conditions that give you an actual insight in terms of the performance of the vehicle, rather than just looking at the state of charge or the state of health of a battery in isolation, or for that matter, the torque demand from the vehicle, which is again two just different components in a vehicle. That is not going to give you the full insight.
So Anup, then I want to understand from you, how do you see the market transitioning in the next 5 years in terms of consumer behavior?
See, the way we see it, and this is supported by the most recent announcement by Volvo also, which has gone back on its own commitment of phasing out all the ICE by 2030, and they have stated that it is going to stay for some more time. That essentially means that there is yet the science is evolving. ICE has evolved over a period of 100 years. EV is a recent phenomena. Of course, there is a lot of backing of the technology like AI that is helping you expedite the overall technology development, and there is everyday new battery chemistries coming into place. But the way we still see is that it is not going to dominate. It is going to take its own position and a certain percentage, and like he said, it is not my first vehicle, it is my second vehicle.
Right.
So it will not become your first choice of vehicle. Any point of time, you'll always want to have one ICE, and EV will become your backup as a vehicle. That's the way we see it.
So Akshay, you in fact make the closing note, because we are slowly on the verge of ending this panel. A, how are we fighting the bottlenecks? B, also, do you agree with the transitioning market and how we are getting there? And do you also feel that eventually, in terms of design and the way passenger vehicles are now turning out, the impact of the end goal of EV has a play in it?
So I think first I just want to touch is, even when you talk about just two-wheelers, our market, India is a 300 million vehicle market, okay? And out of that 300 million, 270 million are actually two and three-wheelers. It's just the balance 30, which is actually four-wheelers and the rest, right? So we are actually talking about a very small subset when you're talking of four-wheelers and its adoption to EV, because not the middle class India is really thinking about that four-wheeler to move to EV, and in terms of the curve of adoption, right? There's a curve of adoption. We're too early, too nascent when it comes to four-wheelers, but we've already started seeing that in two-wheelers and three-wheelers, where 50%, as I said, 50% of vehicles already three-wheelers are EVs, right? So the trend that I see is that certain segments will adopt much faster. There will be cohesiveness in terms of the fueling type that will exist for different applications. Like if I want to be in a four-wheeler and I do long distances, then definitely I do need to be on an petrol or a much easier access, and I may be a laggard in terms of adopting to EV, which is completely fine. But I think eventuality in 2035 or 2030, right, is a place where every consumer will be talking about adopting to an EV. If you look at the general trend, obviously there is only 2% adoption to EV in four-wheeler segment. But the trend is that 10% people are actually searching about EV in terms of the total volume. So there is obviously definitely a trend that is coming in. And I think that will continue. There is also the government push that is kind of coming in terms of the subsidy, the incentives that are there, right, in this market. It has gone to the segments where we feel that we will be very, very strong. And I feel that especially 2-3-wheeler market is an Indian phenomena. We will end up exporting a lot of this across India. And because we make one of the best products in this category, the 2-3-wheeler, it is also very beneficial for the country in terms of making that right move, right? So I think that would be my last
All right,
thought.
I think it's been a very interesting discussion so far, and I particularly like panels where there are so many diverse opinions coming in. So I want to thank all you gentlemen for being a part of this. Of course, we have to slip into a short commercial break for all our viewers, but we'll be back on the other side as discussions in the roadmap for the auto sector continues. Thank you. Thank you.
India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on
start a new age of policy making, which is evidence based and which is trial based. It should also conduct technical trials to give people and a stakeholder a complete confidence and insight, whether they have to take a decision on the deployment, they have to take a decision of financing, or a policy or a technical competence. Because machine, the way they are catalogued by the manufacturers, they do not behave that way on the ground. So how they do behave and what type of ecosystem at the time of deployment they will create, it decides the market of the deployment, a new vehicle, a new trucking or a bus or a two-wheeler or three-wheeler. These are things which is not possible without trial. And we as a country, I don't know why but where, we do not believe into trials, we believe into copy-paste. And a lot of consultants who have also worked with government in previous era has only given a copy-paste Western policy to India, and by the time we caught them that this is not working, it's all 4-5 years gone. So my role in National Highway EV is to create an highway which is continuously onboarding new technologies. It might be wireless, pantograph, it might be charging station, or the Germany e-highway model or US e-highway model of Tesla. But this continuation should give us an insight that whether we should wait for hydrogen, whether we should go for electric, what long and how strong our supply chain management is there. Are we in position to give clarity from the government side at that level that you are not to be confused right now? I see a lot of companies who are very large in size. They are capable to buy electric trucks, electric fleets. They are not buying or they are not taking, they are waiting on the fence just because they have something back in their mind that hydrogen is going to come. So if I take a decision now, I'll be in soup. So and when I conduct a trial between hydrogen and electric, it is difficult to take a hydrogen truck on the ground for a technical trial. So something which is not ready is hurting, which you have prepared from last 10 years. So these type of mistakes, I think government and stakeholders should come together to correct, rectify and create a conducive environment where people talk about quality, they talk about certification, competence and what people need to fit in the pocket.
Right, I get your point because a lot of industry players are talking about the same as far as the government's role is concerned. But I also want to come to you, Pankaj, to understand how digital marketing strategies can align with regulatory requirements in order to promote EVs and the kind of policies that should be in place to support this.
Yeah, so before I answer that question, I think Abhijit raised something very interesting in terms of copy-paste of international measures and strategies. The biggest problem on a copy-paste, which I see as far as regulation is concerned, is blocking a cut on a road. So I'll give an example. Coming to Noida, all of us, we did a research. Some 76% people, that's 38 out of 50 people, cars were checked, they were on the wrong side. So India is largely a left-hand drive. Yes. And you're driving on the left-hand side and you're going straight and there's a crossroad. Now, smartly, the system has blocked the crossroad. So you take a left, go 800 meters and then come back and take a right turn. But on the same turn, you see 10 meters away, you've got a right cut. So you take that wrong side. 38 out of 50 people do that, right? Which is terrible. And every day you see people dying on the road. So as far as regulation is concerned, I fully agree with you. It's not about copy paste. It's about understanding the market needs, understanding what is implementable, and then go ahead and implement. So this was not related to EVs, but was very relevant to EVs, very relevant to traffic. Now, as far as digital marketing is concerned, I think we all need to understand how important. Right, so for everything you will have a good and a bad. So if you are into homeopathy or if you are into naturopathy, there will be 10 people telling you go for it, and they'll tell 10 people tell you against it. But the one thing that people need to understand, and that needs to be communicated in a layman's language, is imagine har ghar, if every house today there was no electric connection and they ran on a generator, a diesel generator or a petrol generator, what would happen? You'd choke in that society, right? So that's exactly what's happening on the roads today. Every car is running on bloody diesel or generators. You are killing yourself. The transition to EV has to happen. There is no way about it, right? And people need to understand digital marketing plays a huge role in telling you and I how important it is to buy that electric vehicle. But I get a diesel vehicle or a petrol vehicle for 6 lakhs and the same EV comes for 60 lakhs, right? So that is the challenge. So we are a selfish society. We need to save our own pockets before we look at the environment, right? That's the challenge. So digital marketing can play a role in one, trying to ensure that people understand the need for it, but then governance somewhere needs to come to tell people that, you know, it's not about that. There's a cost that needs to be taken care of.
So Uday, I'd like you to address that point. Also, tell us where India stands in terms of trials and testing and what the hiccups are, and how important a role would government collaboration play in terms of coming out with more effective policies and working in tandem with private players?
Well, first of all, really glad to be here at Republic, and to see that mainstream media understands the importance of the new world of green energy, sustainability, mobility revolution is all about making India a greener and cleaner country. Great to be with among friends. Abhijit, I know for a long time, so it's feeling like ghar wapsi wali baat hai. I'm working on my Hindi over the years now, but what I would say is that, I think the need of the hour, the need of this country is to make it green and cleaner. But we just cannot just expect everything from the government. Coming back to you, it has to be a public-private partnership. I totally agree that, we need to make sure 31 of the most polluted cities in the world is in our country. If we have to do something, we have to do this together. The government is working on, it was Fame 1, Fame 2, we've got Fame 3 come up just now. Abhijit was just talking about it with us, that, how e-trucks has become very important. E-ambulances for the first time have been brought into the system. But I just don't think we can expect this country to be dependent on everything of the government. It has to be where all of us, and you were talking about a selfish society. I think where we all need to understand, if we care about the future generations of our country, and if we care about, I'm very big on Nari Shakti, if we want to change that, we want to bring a change, we all have to put our hand in the pocket. And if we don't, then I think we're going to be living in a very, very difficult world ahead. Modi ji's talking about building the third largest economy and building the third largest stock market in the world. But having the right environment is just as important. Yeah. I think what is most important is in terms of trials and testing. Abhijit ji said that obviously continuous testing. I am testing in the deserts of Jaisalmer. I'm testing in the mountains in Kashmir. I just came from Norway and in the Nordic countries. I'm going tomorrow morning test in the deserts of Abu Dhabi. We have to test. We have to be able to make sure that the TCO, what you're talking about, is the total cost ownership model works. In India, if we really talk about hame greener, cleaner India chahiye, if it doesn't work on the total cost ownership, none of you will change. You want ke mere ko kya saving hui. So right. I think policies and procedures, testing of those vehicles, finding solutions, whether it's financing, whether it's battery as a service, whether it's making policies that work together. For me, only one thing. They say in a war, it's boots on the ground. For me, it's vehicles on the ground. Having the infrastructure for charging. And I'll tell you what, a lot of work is going on in this country, and I would tell you, बहुत सारे लोग कहेंगे कि बहुत धीरे चल रहा है. मैं कह रहा हूँ जितना काम हो रहा है बहुत स्पीड से चल रहा है. And I think give the next 5 years, I think you're going to see not just EV.
Right.
It's going to be, if you talk to Toyota, they talk about hybrid. It's going to be hydrogen, and it's going to be any technology that gives us off this foreign oil dependence. And with all of this uncertainty in today's world, in Ukraine, in the Middle East, I think we've got to owe it, not just for Clean India, to get off this exposure to foreign oil. I think government policies are being worked at, whether it's at the national level or at the state level, because every CM also understands that if we don't move towards green energy and sustainability, they're going to be voted out. I'll tell you, every state government, whether it is BJP or anti-BJP, they're all working on this. And I think that is something which has never happened in this country. So look, for me, I'm really, really proud to be in this nation where a lot of change is happening. Time लगता है, हर कुछ में थोड़ा सा effort लगाना पड़ता है. As I said to you before, Rome wasn't built in one day. In India, we want to build a Rome every day. So let's keep working on it, and I think we'll get to the solutions.
So that's a very positive approach. And Abhimanyu, I want to come to you on this point, because some countries have been able to crack the formula. They're running a successful model. The important thing is not just to take lessons, but also to understand how we can best adapt it in our scenario to create a conducive environment. Where do we stand and how do we bridge the gap?
Sure. Thanks, Suesha. Again, before I begin, I would like to thank Republic for having me here. To answer your question, like you said, yes, I think there are different countries around the world at different stages. To just simplify it, we can maybe call them mature and emerging markets, which is also a fairly commonly used terminology. So there are mature markets who have, like Norway. Norway is a very commonly dropped name, I think, because they're doing so well. China, when you come to Asia, China is again a mature market by all intents and purposes. But if you were to talk about India and what learnings we can take, like Abhijit ji said, we can just pick up and copy paste from the West, or even a market like China, because there is probably maybe some realities are very similar, but they are just at a stage right now where if we just pick up something that they are doing in year 20 of their EV growth and we being in our year 8 or 9, it will probably not be immediately identically replicable for us. So maybe there are learnings that we can take from these mature markets, but also see the other emerging markets, especially in Global South, especially in South Asia. For example, markets like Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, while they are much smaller nations and much smaller economies than India, they do have some aggressive targets that they, are by in some ways they are on the road to achieve. For example, one important target I would say is just electrification of all state-owned vehicles. Now, again, just before the panel, we were talking, and I mentioned to Abhijit ji how that's a number that, and he in fact corrected me that that's a number that India has missed a couple of times. So policy that ensures that we meet that target, all state-owned vehicles, are converted to EVs, and we have a realistic but also an aspirational target for that.
Right.
Now, if we talk about some other countries in the APAC, New Zealand is an example, which not only incentivizes buying an EV, but kind of, I don't want to use the word punished, but maybe makes it more difficult or more expensive for people to have ICE, which is internal combustion engine, your traditional petrol, diesel vehicles. So it makes it more expensive for someone to buy a petrol or diesel vehicle. They have something that is the opposite of a rebate called a fee bait. And there, if you want to buy a petrol vehicle for whatever reason, maybe it has higher torque or more power or whatever, then you pay an additional fee, while an EV is available to you. And Uday was talking about total cost of ownership, which is calculated over maybe 5 years or 10 years. So if you buy something that's immediately more expensive, which is right now a big deterrent to people who are looking to buy EVs. They say महंगा है, so क्या कर रहे हैं, 5 साल बाद अगर recover हो भी जाएगा तो, but for now, we will be paying more from our pocket right now. That immediately, right off the bat, is not an issue for some, and I don't know if we are there yet, but that's a model that we can develop policy. We can work with businesses, and that's where ease of doing business comes in. So we can not just.
That's we resolved, I think, 5 years back, that every person who is being expected right now to buy EV does not need to buy EV. There are Blue Smarts, there are Nemo Go who are buying EV and giving you on the subscription. You use it. Even for intercity, you can use it.
I want to come to you on a very important point as Program Director for National Highways for Electric Vehicles. To understand from you, Abhijit, how you see government policies affecting the deployment of charging infrastructure along national highways, because that is a key concern in order to go the EV way.
See, you may find me sounding little impatient, but I'm not finding it that we are doing enough. We are either doing too little to celebrate, or we are too late to wait. It's 10-year journey. If you will include FAME 1 and FAME 2, we have lost many opportunities. We lost the opportunity that our leadership given. Our Minister of Road Transport clearly given an opportunity that you can make both electric vehicle and petrol vehicle prices equal by putting the battery on swapping. We made a panel for deciding within industry on the size of the battery, on the connector of the battery, on the material and how do they communicate. But we could not reach to consensus and we missed that bus. Now before that there was a very strong narrative which was very badly prepared, or maybe I will say also battled by the media, that the basic and the large game player of oil industry, which has this automobile industry coming out from oil and then from automobile coming out to the electric mobility. So they did not wanted it to grow. That is why it was kept in such a complicated mode that what you all spoke is to us, it is like a 5-10 years old problem. You don't need to buy and own every vehicle. You can use a vehicle within the city, you can use on the highway, you can use on the cab, you can keep couple of vehicles. So why we did not went on the highways and why we did not went to create those ecosystems which are giving you a strength is that has delayed the transition already. Now, right now, if you see truck, which is contributing 30% of the emission, was out of the FAME subsidy from last 10 years. Recently, Prime Minister's scientific advisor given a recommendation to the PM e-drive and it came. Buses, which are most important part of the ecosystem of public transport, they were not benefited for a long period of time, and as a whole, as a sector, we failed to impress those private bus operators to come and switch into electric, and majority of buses are owned by the private operators. We were focusing on the city buses. So these type of conventional and unconventional, I think, miss-outs are now hitting badly. And if you will say highways, you have asked a very good question about highway. I would say if not now, if we do not decide the meaning of e-highway in India at this stage of time, we will make further losses in the adoption. Anybody gets up, puts a charger on a dhaba and says this road has become an e-highway. E-highway is what you need to see from Germany, what you need to see from America, and then you also have a beta version which we have prototyped between Delhi, Jaipur and Delhi, Agra. It is giving confidence to people that if you shut down with your car on an highway, within 30 minutes without calling, we reach to you. If you are using that particular highway, then you are committing a 30% commitment to the charger and you are not buying the vehicle, you are just using the vehicle. So these are the definitions of e-highway which we need to debate on it, but we need to finalize a standard. Otherwise, anybody will say it's an e-highway. And who will get hurt? A logistic company who is currently using diesel, if they switch to electric and they consider, okay, this lane was an e-highway because of some media marketing stuff has happened, that company will come back and say, this is not the development which I thought of.
What you're saying, Abhijit, is music to my ears, because perception is reality, right? And as far as masses are concerned, and as far as the big population that we are concerned, no one is aware of the total cost of ownership.
True.
The point that you guys raised, right? Over 5-10 years. And if people manage to understand that the total cost of ownership is pretty much the same, you will see a huge move. What you spoke about the highways is again news, right? If your vehicles break down, there's no charge, someone comes to your rescue. But I think the government needs to play a huge role in trying to communicate that to the masses, and so does the media, right?
Right, and which is why I further wanted you to comment on the compliance challenges that we are facing in the given network, in the given framework when it comes to the regulatory landscape.
Regulation, so I think Abhijit is the right guy to comment on that, but broadly speaking, from a general point of view, regulations mean nothing till it's not implemented. Right. So the example I gave you about cuts is something which is really trivial, but a lot of things need to be implementable, right? You can't have a cop standing on every station. You can't be communicating to individuals how good EVs are. But the fact is, the moment you hammer the message that EVs are imperative, whether it's hydrogen, but you need to get rid of fuel passing by your house, I think half the job is done. The other job is about getting the pricing right. But if you communicate the complete total cost of ownership, I think that's done. So there is no problem. I think everything is there. The only gap that lies in one, to a great extent, being the world's biggest democracy, is in a lot of consensus to make things move, to get the machinery moving. So we worked with the government, we worked with the BJP. You rightly said about tenders getting in, tenders getting out. I think there's enough money in this country. There is enough authority in this country. The problem only lies in all of us saying yes to something and moving in the right direction. Consensus, that's all there is to it.
Which is so simple.
Which is so simple.
Which is not as simple all the time.
So again, on the selfish society, I think he said it right to you. We need to put the hands in the pocket, step out and invest. But why will I do it? Why don't you do it?
I'll do it.
That's exactly what the world. No, that's what everyone thinks. So I will do it with you, bro.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. No one wants to invest the money, right?
See, I think, मैं फिर बोल रहा हूँ, अभिजीत जी, आप impatient है, मुझे अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन 10 साल ही हुए हैं और ऑटो इंडस्ट्री बहुत टाइम से है, तो मेरे ना बहुत सारे बाल सफ़ेद हो गए, मैंने ज़िंदगी में बहुत कुछ देखा है. I think you have to be a bit patient. This is a country which is the most, when I came back from abroad, my mum once said, if you want to be in India, stop complaining and try to find ways to make it work, right? And so all I'm going to say, for a guy who spent 30 years in US and Europe and came back to this country, I still think a lot is happening. I think there is a newer, younger India. I do see, Abhijit ji, give it the next 5 years. I'll tell you what, I give you an example, right, on the total cost ownership. I've come up with a 3-wheeler passenger, right? An average EV does 120 kilometers a day, which is about maximum 3,000. I've got a 15-minute fast charging, which we're putting up the chargers in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Ahmedabad, and we'll put it across the country, can make 400 kilometers a day. On an average, that we have drivers driving between 6,000 to 7,000. When a driver runs 6,000 to 7,000 against a 3,000, the TCO model and the income works. You get a buy-in. That's what needs to happen on the trucks. That's what needs to happen on the buses and on the 4-wheeler passenger. True. The way it works is scale. We all talk about China. China has got scale. We have to make, if we want to make India great again, I'll take it from the Trump, we are on a path of great again, possibly. But what I'm saying is that if we do this, we've got to build scale. And scale can come with alliances. Hyundai is doing an IPO in this country of 25,000 crores. What does that tell me? India has a market. India has a development scenario. And I appreciate that time is 10 years नहीं हुआ. लेकिन I think next 5 सालों में, अभी जी आप तो बहुत young हैं, हम तो बुढ़े हो गए, लेकिन आपको नजर आएगा. This is going to happen because technology is going to play.
Right. And Abhimanyu, you'd want to
make India great again.
comment on it. India is great, but we're talking about the EV space right now, and it's really about getting all the stakeholders together to work in tandem with the government, and it's just about synchronizing.
You spoke about regulatory, so if you don't mind,
yes, please.
If I may bring it back to that. So I do have some thoughts there. I believe that regulatory around EV goes closely hand in hand with regulatory around larger urban mobility. I think EV is a very important, electrification, energy transition is a very important part of it, but regulatory and policy around making more sustainable urban mobility, I think is the answer. And making EV compliant and e-highways is very much part of smart planning. The smart city project is very closely aligned with e-highways. So we just have to build better cities that are better planned. For example, when you talk about EVs, IPT in urban mobility, which is intermediate public transport, that's a term we commonly use, but things like once you're getting off a metro, how are you getting to your house? That's IPT. Once you once you're getting off that bus station, etc., or if you take an auto, is the auto easily available? So just intermediate public transport, how can we electrify and make that more sustainable, make that more accessible? So I think when we talk about three-wheelers and everyone's saying three-wheelers, 50% of three-wheelers are already EVs in India, but how many of those are e-rickshaws? Because I think e-rickshaws form a big part of the puzzle, and not many people are talking about those. So there could be regulatory around those. Now, we all know that e-rickshaws don't have the strongest regulatory around it. There's a lot of just gray areas there. Similar is the case for the less than 25 km/h speed wale E2 wheelers. So again, those, because the delivery economy is right now again a big part of this puzzle, and delivery economy is using those Yulu bikes and those other e-mopeds, right, which you sir are also manufacturing, right? You're doing the moped, right?
No. I'm doing. We don't do anything that is low speed. Okay. And we don't do anything that is we don't do lead acid. Everything has lithium or others. Okay. So you're absolutely. But the point, Abhimanyu, you're saying is absolutely right. And sorry to interrupt you. I think all of that change needs to happen. And I think in the delivery, you'll see some vehicles come out in the near future with everybody, where all of this is going out. The regulation is coming. The enforcement is coming. But again, thoda sa time lagta hai.
Good to hear.
Right.
Good to hear.
Right,
and if I may just bring that home, just a couple of more minutes at the most. One last puzzle is just, when we talk about sustainability, I think again a big part of it is the inclusion through livelihoods, because as I said, briefly touched upon, there's this large workforce that is currently working on the petrol and diesel vehicles, the mechanics, the engineers, the after-sales service, which may or may not be trained on how to service electronic vehicles, or just the future state. Even if you're going to get your old petrol car retrofitted with an EV kit, which is like something that government is incentivizing. Do you have? Skilling is important. Yeah. Do you have a workforce that will? Can you then take it to the service center again 2 months later, and the same person will be able to service it? Ideally, the same person should be able to. They should have both the skills.
Yeah. Right.
But currently, that is missing. So that's again policy regulatory that may not be directly something that comes to mind when you think about moving to EVs. But I think those are important, making it inclusive in terms of gender, involving just people with disability, more women, more trans people. I think all that is important.
Very important concern. But I still feel that we've had this discussion, and we are ending on a very positive note.
I just want to add
hopeful.
One last thing.
Yes, please.
As a country, India, from 2014 to 2024, has came from 10 number of GDP to 5 number of GDP.
Right.
I have pushed Russia, Italy, Brazil, France and UK. Right now, I am knocking Germany. After Germany, I have US, Japan and China. My pace of, as an economy growing, is highly dependent on my ambition on climate and decarbonization. The second ambition which I have, to reduce my oil import bill as a country. Because what is happening into geopolitical situation, you need to be an energy independent country as soon as possible. How much time, money it takes, it's your call. But if I look at how I have grown as a economy, then first 1 trillion I have taken 65 years. Second trillion I have taken 8 years. Third trillion 5 years. Fourth 3 years. Fifth trillion we may take less than 2 years, and we are developing a capability under Viksit Bharat to add 1 trillion economy every year. So that we can reach to $35 trillion economy. And both of these targets are dependent on the decarbonization of our fleets, decarbonization of our surface transport, reduction of 14% GDP that we are spending on the logistic into 9%. So my impatience is compared to Digital India, which Prime Minister opened into 2016. Within 10 years, my ranking of data consumption from 123 become number 1 globally. But in electric mobility, I'm not seeing my ranking anywhere in the globe comparative to what we could do in the DPI, UPI and NPI. This is the wish, this is the time for us. Yahi samay hai aur sahi samay hai.
So fasten the pace, but we are hopeful that we are getting there. I as much would want this discussion to continue, but we are slightly short on time. I want to thank you all for sharing your inputs, and like I said, I always like a panel with very diverse opinions. So hoping that all these concerns are addressed. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries
and the topic of our new panel is ancillaries and infrastructure, where we will talk about how robust infrastructure and innovative ancillary services are critical for a sustainable future in mobility, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. So I have with me today on the roundtable Vaibhav Kaushik, who's the co-founder and CEO of Naugati. I have Himanshu Singh Raghuvanshi, who's the founder and COO of CapGrid. I have Venkata Saivi Reddy, co-founder of Lion Charge, and Pranay Kumar, Executive Director at REPL. So let me start with you, Pranay. Because you look at town planning, infrastructure, where do you think India stands vis-a-vis EV infrastructure? Are we ready? How ready are we?
See, we have as on date over 12,000 odd charging facilities, and we need 30 lakhs.
12,000 and we need 30 lakhs.
Yes. Now, how to reach it? That too, we want to do it in very fast time. So there lies the gap.
Right.
In terms of ramping up, yes, over 100% growth is there year on year, which is expected to further go up because EV adoption is pretty fast in country. Newer cities which are going to be planned now, very less number of cities have come in India after independence. Now newer cities are being launched. Those will be planned with these infrastructure. However, the existing infrastructure will have to do retrofitting because neither the grids have been designed nor the cable structures are like that. So there is definitely a gap.
Right. The numbers, I mean, let me start with your numbers and Saivir, you can take it. 12,000, but you need 30 lakhs. And Pranay talks about new cities. And you know how long new cities are going to take, right? We don't have time. So how do you meet this challenge?
Correct. Actually, to start with, the ancillaries are actually working with startups and OEMs in terms of manufacturing for the EV charging components, which is your power modules and cables. Second, there is also the PLI scheme from the government, which helps in the manufacturing sector, and this helps reduce the costs of EVs by up to 25%. So the cost of ownership goes down, increasing the EV adoption, helping increase the EV adoption. And the third and the most important thing that that is being worked on is ancillary companies are working with the National Skill Development Corporation. There's going to be about 5 million jobs created in the EV charging space and the EV ecosystem by 2030.
Right, by 2030?
By 2030. So 2030.
How many million jobs?
5 million.
5 million.
Yeah, okay. Direct and indirect. So the ancillary companies are working with the NSDC to train and place the workforce into these positions. So yeah, definitely there is a gap, but there is also the push coming from the government to support the supply and demand side of it. Right. And there's also now people realize that it is not just EVs being cost efficient, but also a practical way to charge their EVs, right? So they'd like to charge wherever they are, and definitely also use the public charging infrastructure. So it's all about how ready the property is. When I say property, the house or the office, how EV ready is the property. It totally boils down to that.
Okay. Himanshu, when you speak of India as a market, right, we have a unique problem. I don't know whether it's a problem. It's a good thing, maybe. In the previous panel, we spoke of some bright spots for India, that the best interest that people are showing are from 2-tier, 3-tier, 4-tier cities or towards EV, especially in the 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler segments, right? Absolutely. Now, it's a good problem to have. Now, but we also have a complex problem because when you look at the infrastructure, the charging points, right? Now, this is the first question that comes to your mind, right? And whoever has a 4-wheeler likes to drive, of course, unless it is within the city. So, what are the gaps that we face right now in terms of charging infrastructure?
Sure. So let's look at the lay of the land for a moment. Like in the entire EV ecosystem, I mean, I know I may not sound too profound when I say there is a V in EV, which is the vehicle itself.
Correct.
But the surrounding infrastructure, when we talk about it from the back stream and the front stream point of view, we've like to your question of the front end side of the infrastructure, I think there are various gaps in terms of, I'll give you an interesting statistic, like there are 27 cars per 1,000 people in India, right? If we compare it to US, they have 975 cars per 1,000 people. The infrastructure gaps that we're talking about is in terms of the EV market share within those 27 cars per 1,000 people. But I think we should look at it holistically, because this number is also going to increase, even if it becomes 100 cars per 1,000 people. And broaden the spectrum of just infrastructure, right? There are 100 plus EV cars in India at this moment with just one charging point. If we compare it to some Nordic countries or even US, this isn't like low double digits, right? 10 to 15 cars per charging station, right? The first thing is that India's baseline is very low. If you talk about the adoption, it primarily comes from the two-wheeler industry, the three-wheeler industry, or the electric buses. But cars, we have a long way to go. The number that I think one of my co-panelists was also pointing towards was 30 lakhs, right? If the drive is coming from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, do the users get that confidence of taking their electric car from a two-wheeler to a tier 1 city? I'm not sure that is the confidence that at least I have at this moment. But it has to be tied with the other infrastructure capex projects that the government is driving. Like retrofitting can go on, we cannot go in the past and change it, but at least whatever is being built, and even from the capex or infrastructure point of view, we have a long way to go, forget EVs for now. So it needs to be tied up with all the investments that are happening in the highways, the expressways, and the cities being built, or the IT parks being built. So I think EV needs to be the core attachment to every infrastructure investment that the government or the private sector is doing, or in terms of the PPP model. If it is at the core, then I think things would improve. Until then, we would only see a spike in adoption for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, which are primarily used for the last mile or intra-city travel.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we had an interesting conversation before coming into this conversation about controlled EV travel, like you know exactly where you're going, versus you know, just driving out of, let's say we're sitting in Noida, right? And you can take this question, Web, of one of you were giving me that example of, you know, you would take a long drive with your EV, let's say Delhi to Mumbai, right? Or Delhi to I mean on your major highways, but you wouldn't do the same when you're traveling from Noida to Lucknow, right? Now, how do you change that? In your view, and you track how infrastructure is built for, I mean, that's what you do, that's your area of expertise. Do you see that change over time?
So, you know, you rightly pointed out, the thing is that for major highways, the only pit stops that are there are petrol pumps, right? Fuel stations.
Yes.
So what we are seeing change, you know, what we're seeing evolve in India as a whole is that the petrol pumps on highways, you know, all the major OMCs have their own versions of the highway petrol pumps. So they're converting them into mobility stations, right? Where you have like a proper pit stop like system where you'll have some restaurants, cafe, and you know, maybe some resting area for truck drivers, right? Because you know, that gives an opportunity for people, if they're charging their vehicle, they can sort of go around, spend close to an hour, right? When the vehicle is getting charged. So the companies are converting these conventional petrol pumps into a mobility station where they'll have petrol, diesel, CNG, electric. You know, even when hydrogen comes in, you'll have, you know, hydrogen dispense, you know, hydrogen cell set up there, right? Stations there. We are also seeing that, you know, Reliance particularly has set up a lot of these charging stations, you know, BP Pulse you'll see, right, across the country. And they've tied up with major charge point operators for this. So in terms of the discoverability aspect that you're talking about, we still have a long way to go. Not just for EVs, but for all, you know, greener alternatives. Even for CNG, I'll give you a number here. We have close to 7,000 CNG stations in India, as opposed to 88,000 petrol pumps in the country, right? We still have regions in the country where, you know, the penetration of CNG stations is not as high, right? EV, on the other hand, the infrastructure cost, the setup cost is much higher, right? So it'll also take a very long time to sort of get to base.
That reminds me of a point. I think Ford which is one of the oldest automotive companies, has stopped calling itself an automotive company. It calls itself a mobility solutions provider. So even the automotive companies are widening the scope. Like why does the government control the fuel stations? Because processing it is huge capex, and it is of strategic interest to any particular nation. So the government had a say there. But as far as electricity or charging stations are concerned, the government can only do as much, right? So these mobility solutions providers also, I mean, a part of the responsibility also falls to these mobility solution providers in terms of not just providing the vehicle, but also contributing in the infrastructure, which was not seen in the traditional IC vehicles.
So even to add to this, the problem is that most of the existing players in the EV charging space are building their own closed-off ecosystems, right? So if say you buy an EV car, like you're already contemplating one. So you get a car, you'll have to download 20, 30 different apps if you want to go to a charging station and actually operate that charger, right? So one good thing is that, the charging stations would soon be on the ONDC network, right? So you can use one app to operate any other charging station. You don't have to use, that particular entity's charging app. So I think that is a good way forward in this direction.
So, Saivir, if I can ask you this because you look at primarily charging stations, that's charging infrastructure is your area of expertise. Is there another complex problem that the EV industry faces in terms of having a universal charging system, right? You were explaining how the two-wheeler charging system is different from the entire four-wheel universe.
Yes. So four-wheelers, now we already have a standard. Like all different OEMs have the same charging standard when it comes to four-wheelers. It is also the case with two-wheelers. With last year, the government standardizing one particular standard for DC fast charging even for two-wheelers. So that's an interesting improvement in this space. And this will only help more charge point operators like me to set up these chargers that will also cater to all the two-wheelers available in the market. Right now, we just have a very basic solution for two-wheelers, which is largely being even three-wheelers. The same thing can also be used for four-wheelers, but again, it will take good 24 hours for a four-wheeler to charge with that sort of a system. This is an interesting development that was done last year.
Yeah. On the ancillaries front, Pranay, I mean, we know how critical ancillaries are to the development of the EV infrastructure ecosystem, right? So, where is India placed, and what are the challenges that you see from a planning perspective?
Ancillaries, see, EV, if you talk about that value chain entire, there are certain pockets in country where you find that entire automobile system is growing, developing. If you see, there is Chennai, that region, here in Gurgaon region, Pune region, or Jamshedpur region, there are the areas where you find that automobile company and the ancillaries they are developing. But EVs are not being produced alwhere. They are at fixed locations, and ancillaries are in the surrounding only, it is developing.
Right.
And I think you can add more on it.
Yeah, Himanshu.
If we have to draw an analogy from the IC vehicles, right? Most of the automotive players, one of the automotive players globally used to own the land initially when the automotive industry started. Cultivate rubber, make parts from those rubbers, including tires, design the cars, own the land, cultivate rubber, then make the parts, then make the final vehicle and sell it. So they own the entire value chain, right? Now, 20, 30 years later, they realized that ancillaries can do this job a lot better. I am in the business of designing a vehicle, doing the R&D and innovating on the vehicles, right? So ancillaries emerged in the IC era also, and it took good 5-6 decades. If I pick the example of India, I think till the late 70s and early 80s, there were just 2 companies that used to manufacture bolts. I'm talking of a very small part that goes into a vehicle. But it all changed as soon as the liberalization happened. A lot of brands came in, it scaled up as well. A similar trajectory can also be seen with the EV landscape in India, right? There are more than 20,000 plus ancillaries catering to the IC vehicles right now. But less than 5% of these ancillaries are ready for the EV revolution. If you look at the bigger players, they have invested in the bigger tier ones, so as to speak, the suppliers, the ancillaries. They have made good investments towards it, but a large part of it still remains untouched because the R&D budgets for these smaller scale suppliers are relatively lower. It is the responsibility of the OEMs to invest in the R&D part of it as well. So I would still call it a very, very nascent phase, because most of the discussions that we said, like I said, EV, there is a vehicle around which the entire charging backend and the front end operates. Even if you focus on the vehicle, the R&D part of it, the innovation part of it, the front end in terms of the charging infrastructure, the longest time that it is going to take is to build the back-end infrastructure, which is the ancillaries, right? Having said that, in the last couple of years, because of the FAME and the recent PM e-Drive initiative, that is promoting localization. The PLI scheme that is offering a lot of subsidies and incentives to these ancillaries and manufacturers, they are still coming up, but I think it's still, I think, in terms of the import localization or the dependency on the domestic ancillaries, we are still at least a decade away from reaching that stage. If you look at the IC vehicles, we've attained 90% localization in the tractor industry, in the agricultural equipment industry. In a two-wheeler, 90% of the components are manufactured domestically.
Correct.
Even after like 6-7 decades. So for EV, we are a good decade away, but I think these schemes will promote ancillaries to invest more.
So let me put it this way. How much are we dependent on China?
I think substantially in terms of the battery tech. But companies are still trying to build indigenous technologies, but it'll still take, as you mentioned, more than a decade to match that level of quality.
Okay. Why is there a disparity? I mean, we were discussing it, a disparity between the infra in, let's say, you're from AP Telangana region, right? You operate mostly there, and then like in a Maharashtra. And then, do you see that southern, western regions are more adaptable, ready for EV compared to the rest? Do you see that as is that perception for real?
It's not a perception; it's a reality. See, wherever people adopt the EV vehicle first, it goes hand in hand. Naturally, that entrepreneur will tap those regions first to provide that infrastructure. Like IT industry, wherever they were there, and particularly in say Bangalore, they started buying EV for their local travel, intracity travel. Naturally, they needed this. They first kept thing in their residence. Weekend, they wanted to travel. Entrepreneur spotted this opportunity. And rightfully, they provided it along the route they wanted to travel during the weekend.
Yes.
And that facility emerged. In fact, if you look to the different strategy, what people are adopting. I was, making a study, being a consultant, we were making a study, what type of strategies people are formulating.
Yeah.
There are different strategies. If you look to manufacturer versus battery, what you call charging solution provider, there is a strategy coming. There is a strategy emerging between manufacturer and old conventional fuel charging station, which is becoming now energy charging station. There is a what you call a strategy coming between government focus, then there is a technology provider. Some examples are there. Like a static, if you look to, there is a solution provider. They are tying up with all variety. They are tying up with HPCL, BPCL, and then they are providing. Why BPCL is tying up with them? They want to become more stability related. As a result, they want to go to 7,000 outlets. They want to convert to energy charging. Means they will become mixed.
Yeah.
So is the case. People are going like MG Motors. They are manufacturers. So is the case. Tata Motors. They are manufacturers. They are going to some solution provider and providing.
Okay. Yeah.
Some solution. Like MG is providing with, I think, BPGO, one solution. They are trying to take it.
Actually, MG just launched their eHub app, and all the trusted CPOs are on that platform, where all the all the MG users can navigate to different operators. It is not just Lion Charge or anybody else, but they have the entire pool of the chargers. Like you said, right? It's all there's a disparity in terms of location as well.
Yes.
So MG got everybody together. Similarly with Tata as well. So now OEM themselves are bringing up their own aggregator apps, and this is helping them drive their sales and build confidence in their own customers.
I think this has to do with the whole connected car experience, right? So when you have the infotainment system, you also have the app that powers it. So all these OEMs have an app that they give once you sort of buy a vehicle from them. So
it's like through that app you can also book your service. So everything related to the car is available on that app. Also charging comes under that.
Yeah, and what are the challenges you face with this connected ecosystem? I mean, is it practical? Is it
no, it's actually good. It helps increase reliability with the customer, and also for the charge point operator, it helps drive traffic. Right? We want utilization. That will encourage us to add more stations, and that will help people buy more vehicles. So it's a vicious cycle once you start it.
Yeah. But if you remove the software aspect from a car or a vehicle, it would not even be 10% of an experience that you have. You think of players like Google and Uber making driverless cars. These are not even automotive companies. So a car has become more software than metal right now. And if you remove this connected experience, I don't think the experience right now of owning or driving a car would be even 10% of what we experience right now.
No, and also, you would have all these OBD players, coming in just to know where the vehicle is. So once you have this whole connected car experience, all these newer variants will have it, right? Yeah. So the benefit is that you don't have to have a separate OBD device that you insert into the vehicle.
The 2 points which I wanted to add. One is Google tying up with electric pay to give a person which range, what charging facilities existing the nearest me and all. And interoperability between 2 players, like Static is also entering with tie-up with some other. So if their vehicle moves to some other region, they need not have to again download another app.
That will happen through ONDC.
Yeah, ONDC will be the largest platform.
If ONDC happens, then
that will most definitely happen. Like we saw some pilots with the food delivery apps earlier this year. Right? That will happen.
They're running that pilot in Bangalore.
Himanshu, how do government policies affect the ability to implement these infra projects on the policy front, right? The government has a vision, and that vision is to have 30%, I think, if I'm not wrong, 30%, right? EV coverage by 2030.
Yes. Yeah, that is in annual sales.
In annual sales. Do you think they can get there? What are the challenges in your view on the policy front?
Right. I think in terms of on the policy front in the last half a decade, I think we've seen major action. FAME 1 and FAME 2 have been the primary drivers of EV adoption from the consumer point of view. Right now, I think a couple of days back, I think the central government notified of the PM e-drive scheme, which is a little more holistic in terms of including a lot of push for the EV adoption from the consumer point of view. Also in terms of the charging infrastructure, I think there is an outlay of 2,000 crores, if I'm not mistaken, that's allocated only for the developing the charging infrastructure. And
is that enough? 2,000 crores? Is that enough?
It's a good start.
2000. This is largely focused on highway charging, right? Largely focused on highway charging for intercity commute. Okay. Right, everybody who owns an EV right now is able to drive only within the city.
Yes,
from home to office, office to home, or just another 30 kilometers, but not drive to another city like we were just talking about Noida to Lucknow.
But in India, like if you look at again the point that we were discussing, 30% in annual sales, I think 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers may help us get there.
3-wheelers have got, have
more than 60% market share of all the 3-wheelers being sold. It comes from the L3 and the L5 variants, like the electric vehicles. So 3-wheelers maybe will reach there sooner. But if we have to look at it holistically, 30% of the entire sales, we should aim to sell 30% electric cars out of every 100 cars being sold. For that, I think a huge investment is also required. I think a lot of incentives incentive programs should continue at least for the next good part of the next decade, if we ever hope to reach there.
Yeah.
Again, my point.
Why you don't sound very optimistic?
Because we see, we understand.
No, that's why I'm asking. Let's have a frank conversation. I mean, you don't have to be diplomatic about it.
I wanted to add there.
Real issues.
And I wanted to add there in terms of numbers. See, typically 80%, no, he was confirming just before that this conference started. 80% is either domestic or that commercial where you are putting your vehicle in that office.
Yeah.
20% is what you otherwise need for the public.
Yes.
So 30 lakh out of which you need 20%. That means 6 lakhs what you need for the public charging.
Yeah.
For the public charging, that the typical facility will charge minimum 35 lakhs for if you are putting one charging station. If you are putting 4, around 1 crore is what you are spending. Now 1 crore, that means you are covering 3-4. And in case you are wanting to reach that number, around 2 lakh crore would be required that investment.
2 lakh crore.
Yes.
And there's an outlay of 2,000 crore right now.
It is a government investment.
I understand that.
Entrepreneurs have to bring the balance.
You look at the Japanese car companies.
Yeah.
I mean, how many EV models can you name from a Japanese car manufacturer? We'll struggle to name even one.
Yeah.
Hybrid technology has existed for the last good 2.5 decades now, right? Why are these car companies a little reluctant to come up with a lot of new EV models, right? Even you look at the last 6 months, you would have 10 new variants being launched in the IC segment, right? So car manufacturers are also shying away a little bit in terms of the push, in terms of coming out with new models, only because of a lack of infrastructure in the country, right? Now, as I said, I feel as compared to the petrol and the diesel fueled vehicles, wherein the government had a majority of the work to do, here I think it needs to be a distributed ownership in terms of who takes the onus of setting it up. We are a lot more technology driven than we were 50 years back.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of startups like the people sitting in the room, along with these mobility solutions providers or the automotive companies, have to take the lead. Let's say a decade back, who would have thought an MG or an Audi or a Mahindra would tie up with startups to focus on the charging infrastructure, right? Because in IC, everybody looked up to the government. The government would have the likes of BPCL, HPCL set up fuel station. Here, the car companies are also taking ownership. So I think that distributed ownership is required in the form of subsidies, in the form of legislations also, because you're not just selling an electric vehicle. In order to sell more, what infrastructure do you need? The car company should also look at it and invest along with the government.
But are Indian EV startups equipped to push in that amount of capital on the charging infrastructure?
It's all about innovation, right? Definitely, people are ready to invest in this space, right? This is only a growing market and at a very fast rate, right? It's all about innovation, right? What problem you're solving and how quickly you're able to address.
Are there any regulatory hurdles?
No, actually, to start off, especially the EV charging part is a delicensed business, right? So that gave a lot of push to many operators to come into the picture, right? The most important thing is also, it's not about just picking up capital and setting up infrastructure, but also ensuring that they are running, right? They're in operational condition. That is the most important thing that is required. And whatever innovation that can be done in that space, we're making use of IoT devices or ensuring there's enough surveillance around the charger as well, because there's a lot of vandalization also that happens in a public domain space. But that's not the case with charging within the society or in your office, right? So these are more safer places to charge while you're working. Yes, that's one of the reasons why they don't allow outsiders also to come inside and charge, citing security.
Even in case of a public charging setup, we'll have to focus on both the O&M part of it and even the utilization aspect. Because you're mentioning that the auto manufacturers, OEMs are not really coming up with new models. We were discussing.
Is there any challenge that you face in scaling up, especially on the charging front?
Yeah, I have got one thought on it. One area which has been overlooked is when you start charging, it starts drawing electricity. When you start charging a large number, naturally, if you know that back EMF comes, that level of grid pressure has not yet faced. India has not seen that type of how to manage the grid like that. Smart grid has to be developed, and that development is still pending. In case today, if you give 20% charging facility in a society, society and the entire background grid has not been developed like this. If 20% people start charging together,
then
how will that grid behave? People have not worked out on it. It may collapse.
To add to that, actually, in fact, counter to that, now you have smart systems, right? When we know like 20 cars are trying to charge, like you said, right? The apartment is not ready. The apartment is not ready. But with smart load management, your system identifies that, okay, now all 20 cars are trying to charge, but we don't have that load. So it automatically underpowers these chargers. But at the same time, dependency on the grid is very much there, right? Only technology is
but what
helping.
you are talking about is possible within a society.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in a region.
Correct. I'm only talking about a microgrid.
Because dynamic load balancing and those things do come in play, and a smart grid has to be handled. Otherwise, there is a possibility of suddenly people finding not able to charge.
Yeah, and Himanshu, I mean, because you work with a lot of these OEMs, right, and different stakeholders, how do you see all of them collaborate? Of course, you are part of a platform that helps people link to each other and collaborate. But how do you see in the EV segment stakeholders coming together, strengthen the ancillaries and the infra ecosystem further?
Sure. I think, like I said, the pressure is truly coming from the likes of Google and Uber. They are not automotive companies. But they're technology companies, and they're pushing the automotive companies. What that tells us is the true USP of an automotive OEM is not manufacturing, right? Its true USP is R&D, designing, and innovation. That is the true USP, and that is what they're good at. What differentiates a Honda and a Volkswagen? It's all, the parts are virtually the same, right? In terms of the nomenclature, it's the design, the R&D. Now, auto ancillaries are manufacturing experts. Their USP is manufacturing, and that is where companies like us also play in, not just in terms of taking complete ownership of the supply chain and manufacturing, but also in terms of the value addition to the auto ancillaries. Like I said, of course, if you look at the automotive OEMs, you have like good R&D teams, big budgets. But if you look at the auto ancillaries, the R&D spending is pretty low, right? So there is a room for players like us, like CapGrid and certain other players, for value engineering, working with auto ancillaries and OEMs, and adding value, creating value for the auto OEMs, working with auto ancillaries, right? I'll give you a very small example. Like I think the government, under phased manufacturing scheme, mandated, I think, a certain percentage of localization in the EV chargers. I was surprised, a small screw was being sourced from China.
Oh my God.
Even a small screw that we had to develop or localize in India. We were working with a charger manufacturer. And you would be surprised again that the design the Chinese component had was pretty much cannot be manufactured in India unless a huge investment was made for a very small screw. So we created a particular design, gave it to the auto ancillary, got it developed, and then standardized it across a couple of other players too. So I think the auto ancillaries are willing to walk that extra mile. It's just that the hand-holding or the R&D or the know-hows need to be transferred. So OEMs, players like us, have a larger responsibility for bringing the ancillaries to that level. Like I said, there were only 2 bolt manufacturers till the 1980s.
Right.
Once India saw that scale, automotive OEMs like the likes of Maruti, Tata Motors worked a lot, Ashok Leyland worked a lot with these auto ancillaries, made investments to bring them to that level, right? A similar story needs to be written again. if we have to reach there in a decade's time and not take 2 or 3 decades. So a lot of hand-holding investment in terms of R&D and value addition needs to be done at the ancillary level.
Ancillary level. Yes. Okay. At the end of this, I'll give you 30 seconds each. If you can just, from a policy perspective or a government initiative perspective, if you think something is going to be a game changer, I'd like to hear from you.
The new PM eDrive scheme, which has just been rolled out, is really good for the EV ecosystem as a whole, supporting both the supply side and the demand side of it, and especially even the focus on establishing the charging infrastructure, largely focused on intercity commute and powering buses, heavy vehicles. So they're looking to set up these, in a PPP model, looking to set it up.
I know you're happy, but you want something more. Is what was my question.
No, actually, we take baby steps, right?
Okay.
That's how it starts.
No, but I'm asking you for a game changer. What do you, if I had to ask you, is there a game changer that you are looking for?
I really think we need more. We need to add more chargers, right? That push is coming from the government, and now looking at the investment that the government is making, there'll be private entities also willing to jump in and set up more. So this is just a catalyst.
Okay, Pranay.
Government has done enough in terms of providing incentive to manufacture more. In charging space, that support is required, and as I told you, on the area where individuals can't do it, it has to be done at the grid level. That effort is required. And also on terms of compliance side, where like 20% charging facility, what they are talking about, it has to be enforced.
Has to be enforced.
Because well, it is there on paper, but at times we find that people are not really adhering to it. And then creating awareness. Government has done so through universities and colleges. But you know that EV, while we talk and sit and talk about it in NCR region, but tier 2, tier 3 cities and others, still there is lots of gaps in understanding how this entire ecosystem operates.
Himanshu?
I think we need to go top down here. If we aim to have 30% of EV market share by 2030, we need to focus both on the supply side and the demand side. If our policies are designed to push just the demand, the supply will suffer, and I think it would the affordability part of it would go out of the window. So I think a lot of investment, while a lot of investment has been made on the demand side to push the demand side, I don't see a lot of investments apart from the PLI scheme to bring the tier 2, the smaller ancillaries, to encourage them more to participate in this EV revolution. So I think that is one thing that I would want to see a lot more in the next 5-6 years by 2030, while we continue to push on the demand side of things.
Okay. Vaibhav?
So, I can only talk about the fuel discovery aspect here.
Go on.
So, the point is that in terms of the ONDC step, having all the charge point operators ensure that, the charging points are listed on the ONDC network. Small pilots are being done, but I would love to see it happen more aggressively across the country.
But why is it in a country like ours, which has the technology know-how, the talent, the mind, the brains, why can't we push this platform? I mean, why is it taking so long?
Takes time, you have to convince everyone, like even for the initial pilots that happened for the food delivery apps, not a lot of them participate.
Is there a resistance?
It depends from a CPO to CPO on how they view it. And some CPOs actually look at it from the perspective of driving utilization. Right, that is more important, no matter from where it is coming. Right, if from my app or the other app, for me, I am more focused on keeping my charger warmed up.
I think marketing and promotion.
Aspect, right? Got it. They would want that my users stick to my
platform.
Yeah.
But I think standardization does take time.
Of course.
Earlier, if you look at all the automotive manufacturers, they would manufacture everything in-house. So they would be making the same part, but 10 manufacturers would have 10 different setups for doing it. Eventually, they realized one auto supplier can supply the same part to all the 10 manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
So that standardization does take time. In a nascent industry like the EV industry, I think people will try to experiment and find their own course until things channel down to and narrow down towards one approach. So I think that would take time, but that would be quicker than a lot of other things that we anticipate.
Considering that, it is all, a lot of people are there in the sector because it is not a licensed business. It will be very difficult to have everyone come on the same table.
It's all about, like I said, right, keeping the chargers operational as well. That is also an important aspect.
Very interesting conversation. I mean, I've learned so much from this conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. Savir, Pranay, Himanshu and Vaibhav, thank you for being with us on the second roundtable. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital. India is the third largest automobile market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. Industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second
all
edition.
of you for joining us today, and of course the insightful discussions that we've had. In fact, Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era, has brought together brilliant minds and passionate voices, creating a collective vision for the future of India's automotive landscape. We look forward to the impact that today's discussions will have, and of course to reconvening soon to continue this vital journey towards a mobility revolution. Thank you.
Market globally, contributing a remarkable 7.1% to our nation's GDP. As we navigate the future of the automobile and mobility industry, let us deep dive into discussions on electric vehicles, passenger and commercial vehicles, ancillaries and infrastructure, policy and regulations. industry pioneers and thought leaders will unite to explore the future at the second edition of Republic Digital Roundtable, Mobility Revolution, pioneering the next auto era. Only on Republic Digital.